G'day, guys.
Michael, how you doing? I just started recording this.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good, mate. Not too bad. It's 10 p.m. here in Sydney.
I spent a long time in Sydney in the early 2000s, around the 2000 to 2003,
Oh,
and then
wow.
I went over to Perth for another 3 years. Um,
I was only a youngin. I was being a child at that time.
yeah, back in
That
the
was when
country.
Sydney was beautiful. That was during the Olympics, wasn't it? I believe.
Yeah, my my cousin was a musician for some Olympic event. It was out in
Mm.
where were they? Parramatta. They were
Oh, there you go. I was born there.
a
Yeah,
lovely part
lots
of
of
the world.
dogs
Really.
myself. Wow.
We have a few people joined. It was great. Welcome everyone. Kind of a free for all. I think I always side with open conversation being structure in itself. So talk away
Yeah, I
if you.
think that's. Is Pega coming on? Dr. Pega? He's usually
He'll be
here, isn't
here,
he?
I'd say. Yeah, the site's great, by the way. I had a good. I didn't want to run up any credits on you or anything like that. So, and when you mentioned about the sort of pay to access side of it, um, I'm trying to wrap my head
Yeah,
around that to see like what's the what's the situation like? How does it work like that?
sure. Yeah, so basically, the site that I built it on, it uses Gemini's API. So you kind of pay per use, and
Yeah.
the way it works is you kind of fill up a bucket of money or credits, and
Hmm.
then over time, the more the bot is used, more Gemini is used through our website, the more credits. The more the credits will deplete, and it's about 1 US cent per prompt. It's hard to measure though, um, so there's that route, or we could do the chat GPT, the custom GPT, which I did try setting up, but you probably saw it. It's not functioning as it should. It's got
Yeah, I
bugs.
see the screenshot.
Um, but the thing is, it kind of seems that it's not as of a reliable um, way to build a bot. The way that it's done it through Gemini within the website itself, um, I think is probably the better route. It's a lot cleaner too. It just depends on how quickly they get consumed. I just added another $10 on there. Um, what do you? I think people can start testing it. What do you think, mate?
Yeah,
Like,
I
if
think
they get
it's
if depleted, they get depleted. It's not like an auto top up, so it's not like I'm going to be out of pocket a
yeah.
huge amount.
Um, I ask, like I said, I'm more inclined to ask a what question rather than a what if question, just to get a initial take
Yeah,
from it.
I'm glad you.
I was really
Please,
impressed.
if anyone has any feedback, let me know, and I'll kind of refine it a bit. It would take a lot of kind of iterations, I reckon, with this custom bot.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, I can give it away. The domain now it's pdi.guide now. So I bought the domain for about 40 USD. I was like, whatever, let's do it. Um, so if you go there, the site contains not everyone's information that was sent to me. I'm still kind of adding it all in. I've credited a few people on there. You can see some of your names credited, but the website's it's got. Um, so I'm just reading Somi's message. It's got like the Twitter post from Binance. I actually ran it through Claude Code, and I asked Claude screenshot, extract the caption, extract the link, and then put it on this web page. So it's all the valuable posts from Binance listed there. All the posts from Richard during his FUD storm. I think that's all very handy to have.
Yeah,
I've also extracted. I scraped the entirety of 99 Capital's X profile in case he decides to rug his Twitter. I've kind of sort of backup of that. Um, some of which is on the is trained to the bot, but not all of it. But I think that's the thing. Some of what he's kind of sent on his Twitter is a bit outdated, and you know what I mean. Like some of it is a bit outdated, and it's not like it was wrong, but it's kind of been kind of updated since. So it's kind of, and I'd like to understand kind of your views on how we should go about it, but there's that aspect, isn't there? Really, there's this inaccurate information that could still be on there that we got to be careful about.
Yep. I think it's a really good site. We've worked hard at that. And
Yeah, thanks.
back to costs again. Like if costs are incurred that are, I just don't be afraid to raise the issue, because like personally I'll help fund that, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to think of
Or
how we could do it. Like, it'd be nice if we could do it via crypto,
it
right?
would,
But
yeah.
just set it all to a bit of an address for it
Yeah,
to consume from. But something to think about, really.
yeah. The cost could run up, like who knows? So um, I just keep that in my mind, because like I have no problem sending something to. I have a like a shielded address. I could just send you whatever. It's fine. Like I got
Okay,
no
yeah,
problem.
thanks. Appreciate that. I'll let you know. I'll take some of the hit for now, and then
Yeah, see how it plays
we'll
out.
play.
I think
Yeah,
it'll play out rather well. It's really neat. It's really neat.
it's been quite interesting going through all this. Like from what, because like we all have busy lives, and you kind of walk away from a bit, you come back, and then you've missed quite a substantial amount of information.
Yeah,
Like the SparkFi, if you go to the website, the idea of SparkFi, you've got obviously we have SDI as one major piece of the puzzle, but there's also the D3M, the direct deposit module that um, the pioneers have kind of interacted with. All these different things. It's been quite interesting.
mm. It's been an interesting couple of weeks since the
Mm.
clarity and everything.
Something, boys, girls.
Doc, how you doing, man?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. I was
Yeah.
just catching what you were saying. Yeah, hell of a week since we last chatted on it. We have had clarity, SEC chair, all the findings on chain. Um, Obviously hacks happening, big hack, and
Yeah.
scam, should we say? Not a hack necessarily, and just so much has come out. Like so much has come out in our research and findings. Like it's unreal. So
Can I
bullish.
can I just say about this hack, right? There's the pushback isn't so fair. I don't think. Like who's a newbie and who's not. Straight up, I've made some mistakes. I just didn't make them public, but I've made some dumb mistakes on my journey. But these are these are things that bad actors capitalize on. It's the most simple stuff, and it always is the most simple stuff that gets you. So, like just calling people, yeah, the name calling for some guy who just lost an awful lot of money. It just,
Oh,
it's
horrible.
not right. It could happen to you. It could happen to me. It could happen
Happen
to
to
anybody.
anyone.
100%.
Absolutely.
But I just, but I,
It's just shitty. It's just shitty
yeah, it
behavior.
is. And what I noticed is like I he I thought I know I'll type in Pidius. I'll misspell it purposely into Google, just to see was I right, because I noticed he'd misspelled it again yesterday in a chat. I thought, well, maybe that's what happened. And when I misspelled it and put it in, up comes the fake site straight away. It's number one, and
Yeah.
it would only take, oh, you could miss it easily. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's happened. Just about spelling.
Big time.
It's such a shame.
So easy to misspell it. So easy. It's just vowels, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
A-E-I-O-D.
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn shame.
It's
Yeah,
kind of a
it
shame the
sucks.
way that the Richard Hart account kind of responded to, the Richard Hart fan account. I like calling it the fan account. I was questioning Grok about it, and it kind of portrayed Richard Hart win as a fan account because of what it contains in the bio. That's why I keep referring to it like that. But I thought it was kind of a shame how that account reacted. Don't you?
I do. But yeah. Well, I do.
What the Richard Hart win or account or so? Are you talking about someone else?
No, yeah, the Richard Hart, yeah, the Richard
Yeah,
Hart win account.
I think he just wants to double down and like I think it's the whole like coming back to, his just original sort of warlord Richard stance in the sense of like he doesn't have empathy for it. Like
Mm.
I think there's two ways to go with it, right? Like you can either deploy empathy and just look at it like from the human level, or you can come at it from the like there are no victims here in the market, like you get what you deserve kind of stance. And I think with him particularly, I think just from his position, I think he wants to come from a position of like, it's your fault, 100% accountability. No one's coming to save you. You got wrecked. I don't have any empathy for you, in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Because I just think because that's where he's come from the beginning. And I think he wants people to be almost afraid of it so that they're more likely to
Mm.
not accept it. Because I think if we get into I think from his perspective, he's thinking if we all pander to it and be like, oh, woe you sort of thing. Like I'm not saying there is no empathy, but if we go too far one way, he might say, well, fuck it then. What is, we might as well all get hacked on. What's the point? Do you know what I mean? Like he might go the other way. That's just my observation anyway. I'm not saying it's a delicate matter, isn't it? Because you do have to deploy personal responsibility, but you do also want to like feel bad for your comrades when they fall, right? So
Yeah,
it's
no,
a
that's
bit
a good point.
difficult.
I do understand that perspective. Yeah.
I think it's more of as well, like there's an element to I was talking to Osprey about this a couple of weeks ago. I think there is a huge element of rage baiting. Like you have to, like I've recently been experimenting with it on X, and like the rage baiting is just so much like the connection is so much higher than anything else, unless it's like, do you know what I mean? Like you can deploy empathy, but if you do want to connect, you do have to have an element of rage bait. It just I don't know why. It's just it activates probably the prefrontal cortex or something in us where we just have to we feel a response to something that angers us a little bit. And I think so and I think Richard Hart has almost communicated for like that for so long. He almost can't communicate a message without putting a little bit of rage bait in there. Do you know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Like calling people dum dums, like that sends a lot of people up the wrong way. But you know, if you're not looking at it from a comical perspective, do you know what I mean? Because
Mm.
I'll call people dum dums. Like now, I'm so used to like talking. It's weird. It's like the more you listen to someone, the more it grooves into you. Like now, I just call people retards in everyday life. And like obviously, some of my lefty my liberal friends are a bit more kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit. But I'm so used to it now. Just like, do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, no, that's what you're
Quite
saying.
funny. It's quite
Yeah,
funny actually.
125 mil. P died gone.
It's a
Jesus
lot. It's a lot of
Christ.
money. A lot of money. I mean, when you get the context of it as well, like when he said he was out and about and he was on his phone, like I'm
Yeah.
not like what I mean. He could have had a few beers. He could have not have been. He's got a new phone. He's just he's on the move. I mean the A and the E. The thing is, he kind of fucked up in two ways in a way because he spelt Pateus wrong, but he also used .com when it's only .io.
Mm. Oh,
So
is
that
that
was
right?
another thing that got missed out. Yeah, that one got missed out.
Mm.
And to be honest, the third way, there's a few multiple issues here. Like in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Anybody doing crypto on their phone, you're playing with fire there because there's so much malware, there's so much spyware, there's so many ways to make mistakes. You've got to be using a hardware wallet. You've got to split it up into multiple wallets. You just got to play the game. You have to invest in hardware wallets. I know it hits the bank and it hurts when we're this low and we've been this sold off, but if you're going to be playing the game, you have to be backing up your keys and protecting yourself. Like, you just have to.
I agree. Whenever I do log in, I'll always do a malware scan on my PC, and I'll always use kind of like a dummy piece. I have like a dedicated laptop for this. And again, like as you say, like split up your wallets. It's almost like, you know, the idea of diversifying your risk in different asset classes, which I have not done. But we should also do that with wallets. Kind of diversify your risk and kind of split it up. Because if an attacker gets hold of one, um, you know,
Yeah,
it's not your whole stack. And I think that's a very easy. It's not as difficult as or as much of an investment as a hardware wallet as Doc kind of said. It's kind of more so recommended. But if you're not going to do that, diversify your wallets.
100%. I mean, let's just think about it. I mean, you got 200 grand in a wallet. Like, what's,
Well,
200,
that's exactly, especially
you
when
know
you're
what I
talking
mean?
about that much.
200 quid for a hardware wallet is like, do you know what I mean? That's like
Oh, that's right.
0.1%
Whoa,
of your
that's right.
total. You know what I mean? It's rough, isn't it?
Mm.
So
So,
true.
but also, I also understand the thing is, Charlie made it very clear as well in hindsight that I understand his logic. He was literally consolidating all his assets. He wanted it in one place. What's ironic about this, and it just is what it is. I'm not making fun of him, but he wanted to print a PDI green candle. Like, he wanted to flip it all into PDI, and it went the other way. So, like, it wasn't, he was literally consolidating all his assets, his T-bill, his Fed, everything that he had in his wallet into PDI, and it went and it blew back on him. So I understand why he put it into one place, but again, it's just, I don't know. I just you can't be doing things on the move, like on your mobile, using a link. It was a new phone. He didn't have it bookmarked. Um, you know, not saying you have to get a laptop, but a dedicated crypto laptop at this late in the game is just it solves so many problems. And with a hardware wallet, something that you can lock in on and just, plug your hardware wallet in, input your password. Group made a really good point last week. You've got to set up your 25th passphrase, something that only you know that you can remember in your head, if possible. Um, if you trust yourself enough to remember that 25th, or write it down. Either way, write it down, because it's much harder for people to guess it, because it's not part of the archives of what's generated automatically with the 24. It's just like these basic, we've got to call it what it is. It is basic fundamentals, security fundamentals that, Osprey and others have talked about week in, week out. We got to call it what it is. And I think he knows that. Like, it would be impossible to not look back on it and think, okay, that's where I fucked up.
Mm.
Yeah, the Shishio here. Hi guys. Yeah, I just wanted to add on that. Imagine you're being Richard and you've been preaching the same thing for like, I don't know, 5 years to your own community, and then mistakes like this happen on your own chain.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit hard for him to have sympathy.
Yeah. Well, this is it, because this is it. I
Like
mean, it
my own
happened on his
community
channel.
doesn't listen. Like,
Yeah. And I think, and at the end of the day, also, it's not, I think it's like he wants to acknowledge it. He wants the opportunity to educate. And that's really what it comes down to, kind of take, 200,000, 200K is a lot of money by any measure of today's modern sort of life. So to have that element, right, to lose that amount of money is a lot of money. It's a big dent by anyone's margin. And so, how, in a way, you could look at it, well, how could he not acknowledge it? But at the same time, he didn't have to, because it happened on Pateas. But it was also an opportunity, because he's a leader. He feels the need to make an example of that and say, look, this is what's gone wrong. This is how you guys can learn. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
sometimes sometimes you've got to kind of, run towards the fire a little bit when it's happening.
yeah, But yeah, but having like
it's a good point.
200K and not having that split in wallets and having a laptop, when you're on that stage, like your security should be like 10x.
Yeah, it's mad.
Hey guys, I got a question about security. If you guys can hear me.
Hey man,
Thanks for having this. Firstly, thanks for another VC. It's one of those highlights of the week I really enjoy. So appreciate those who organize it. So I don't know whether this works or not, but what if you have like a hardware wallet which you store your crypto on, and then whenever you buy crypto and you swap, say, ETH into Pulse or whatever, or use Liberty or any of these things, you use like you use like a burner wallet, like just a wallet which has nothing in it, and then you do your trade or whatever, and then you transfer whatever tokens you get from the trade into your hardware wallet, which you only ever use to transfer from crypto from that wallet to the wallet which you actually use DeFi on. Would that work? Because you're only actually conducting activity on one wallet, whereas the other wallet, which actually stores your crypto, all you're doing is transferring the coins into that wallet. So the wallet you're actually storing your crypto on, you don't actually do any swaps or anything. It's purely to hold. Like using one wallet for all the DeFi and another wallet for just holding the crypto.
Yeah, 100%. It's a kind of a hot cold wallet rotation. What you're talking about, really, because
Yeah.
your hardware wallet's your cold, and that's your safe, and that's your vault. You're literally your vault, and then you send from your vault to your hot wallet, which is your trading wallet, which, like you say, is your burner wallet, and then you'll trade on that and then send it straight back. So you're only transferring it in and out of those wallets, and then your hardware wallet never connects to a smart contract. That is the safest way to play the game.
Okay, cool. I was gonna start doing that now more often. I looked at what happened the other day, and I started using revoke.cash to like burn out all the approvals I had, and now I'm like, okay, I just want to double check that was how you're meant to play the game. So no, thanks for confirming that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Housekeeping's key, mate.
Yeah, and I have one other very unrelated question, and I want to ask this. Hopefully, this is the right forum to ask it. But you know how everyone talks about Richard streaming and all that stuff. How, in your opinion, and whoever wants to speak out, what do you reckon is the probability of Richard Hart streaming and that being a giga top signal, like when he actually does it? I mean, do you think that that's something which is like warning, you know, he's doing a stream, that's it, it's over? I'm just curious, because I've always thought about this and never really had a chance to ask the question. Just figure out what people's opinions are on that.
For me, I think it's low. They will stream on that.
Okay.
I think you will use the momentum of the market to amplify it by probably start streaming. Maybe.
Okay.
But that's my opinion. To know about everybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
Just want to hear. Yeah.
I think it is a top. This might just IMO, like completely in my opinion, but I think it will be a top signal, or at least in that later game. I said it last week in the sense, or the week before, in the sense that I don't see, like, some people believe that he's going to stream and then that'll be the beginning of our journey. I disagree. I think it will be the end of our journey, because if we remember back to 2021, he was streaming heavily after he was already winning. When Hex was on its run, it was doing an 8x and a double and a double and a double and a double, and it did its 14 doubles. That was when he was most active, and he was streaming for 6 hours a day, every day or every other day. He had someone on the podcast, or the YouTube, and he was set up and he was talking about it, and it was like, it was all at the top. I'm just stating facts. I'm not saying that this is definitely going to happen in the future. I'm just saying that in the past, that's what he did. So there's evidence that he's doing the same playbook. So he's going to come out swinging when we're doing well. He's not, also, even if he streamed now, what's he going to talk about? We're in the shit. Like, we're 99% down. Everyone's down. Like, there is no subject matter. Do you know what I mean? There is no talk. What can you talk about? Okay, we're building this, we're building that. He can write that in a tweet. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of people want him to stream, but there is no real reason for him to stream. And if we look at it historically, he only came out and he was streaming about winning after he won. Look at Hex. Look what Hex has done. This has done this. We've beat Ethereum. We've beat this. You know, bring your heroes here to die. Bodies behind, like a long row of bodies behind. Like it was all Warlord Richard coming out of the top, bragging, dunking on people. You know why we all fell in love with that persona, right? Because, and that's why we got in. You know, when he was doing another sacrifice, people say, "Oh, yeah, but he's done Prove X and this, that, and the other." It's a different game. It's a different kind of sacrifice. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the same strategy as what we did last time. So that's just my opinion. I know other people can have a different opinion, and I don't want it to all be about what I think, but that's my call on it.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. It's a bit of a hot topic. The main thing I worry about personally in terms of the bull market is like, you know, how missing tops is quite brutal. So any sort of thing I can learn about how to sort of use my gut feeling better is always welcome. So yeah, no, thank you for your opinions and stuff. I just want to listen to what everyone has to say and then just weigh it up. Thank you.
No worries, Tenor. I was gonna just one last point on that. The good news is a lot of us are much more experienced since 2017 and 2021 cycles. A lot of people here have been here multiple cycles, so we've learned a lot from our wins, from our losses, and a lot of us are using data now instead of kind of like our own feelings. So you have a lot of people around you that are going to be able to say, you know, bro, we're getting to a top here. You know, this is flashing, this is flashing, this is, you know, there's a good 25, 30 different indicators. In fact, just on that topic, I'm actually in the middle of building. I've kind of was building it back end of last year, but I'm actually diving into it again in the next couple of months, which is actually a market top dashboard, so that it can actually flash with the signals, because Claude's got so advanced now. I was almost doing it like nowhere near as well as I could do it now, like back then, you know, like 6 months ago. And obviously we didn't really get the alt season that we were all wanting, so the dashboard didn't even flash. But I'm basically developing something that I can actually share with people, so you don't have to worry too much about when to sell. And also it's worth mentioning, you mentioned about the market top. It is important to note that at the top of alt season, the top usually lasts, you know, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. So it's not like you're going to hit one day and, you know, you want to max out the top candle like everybody fantasizes over. You're more likely to sell in the upper range, but you will have like 6 weeks to be able to sell. Just on that's the good news, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Shave off over time in increments. That's always not a bad strategy, because then you kind of, it's
yeah.
almost like DCAing out, right, of your position rather than going all out in
DCA
one.
in, DCA in and DCA out. I mean, the one thing I take comfort in is that mathematically only one person can actually buy the top and sell the top mathematically. Because somebody has to be the first person to sell the top. So the likelihood of you being the top seller or even the top buyer is quite low, just in maths. So that's all right. I'm not gonna like get angry because I missed the top by 10% or something like that. It's more just like I just didn't want a moment where I'm like, wait 6 or 7 years for the top, and then I'm like, oh, you know, this has gone 70% down, and I was so greedy. That's yeah, you know, I appreciate
Yeah,
you guys putting out on
100%,
that.
bro.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we kind of remember it. We remember it differently, I think, because, you know, for some of us that have been in 2021 and we you know, we round tripped it, in our memory we think of it like, oh shit, I lost all of it in one day, but in reality we didn't. It was like a 3 to 6 month bleed that all of us kept thinking it's going to come back, it's going to come back. But in hindsight, we know better now, and we know moving forward that we've actually got more time than we think. So yeah, it's a really good question, mate. And as you said, Mike, DCA in and DCA out.
Yeah, because then you kind of don't get FOMO of, and then sticking to that strategy too. because it's very easy to get emotional, especially at the tops and bottoms, as we can all probably agree on. So I think, yeah, I think having that as a strategy is good. Because again, as you said, timing the top is very difficult, very, very difficult. So, yeah, no, it's a good question. It's one that no one really knows the absolute correct answer to, because it's hard to predict, isn't it? Really. That's the thing with Do you think he'll actually stream again eventually? That's my question. Is like, will he ever stream again? I don't know. The way he's kind of, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure he is behind Liberty Swap, and he's kind of behind it. He's kind of,
Yeah.
he's, you know what I mean? He's not kind of coming public with all these different updates unless he stages it and saying, oh, look, there's a community contributor. Liberty Swap has built the native railgun, and done all this, CKX wallet, blah, blah, blah. Unless he pretends as if they're behind it at all and he's not. I don't know. It's kind of a funny one, right? Because he'd have to be very careful when streaming not to say the wrong thing. That'll be difficult.
Yeah.
I reckon it would only be after Interpol drops off. Like at the very least, and Interpol has to drop off before he streams. Because as soon as he streams, he might be giving his location away, and then people will come and try to throw him in jail or something. That's
100%.
my thought about it. At least after Interpol, at the very earliest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's who knows. I mean, I don't know if Interpol is really why he's not streaming, because he's still done his videos. Do you know what I mean? Those Chrissy videos. I mean, then there are a bit of a delay, isn't it? But they're not like live,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the live signal because it tracked. It's a bit like the old cliche movies of like, do you remember in the 80s and 90s movies where they were kind of, they'd have 18 seconds to track their signal while they're on the live call. As soon as he hung up, they lost location. There is
oh
an
yeah,
element of that happening on live signals with YouTube and stuff. Like there's ways that you can
oh, okay.
use.
I didn't know
There
that.
is technology where you can pinpoint locations in live time, and you get like a better bit rate. It's like a better signal sort of thing. So there is an element of that definitely, but it's not how much of that is at play is hard to tell. But there is definitely an Interpol OPSEC issue because if somebody could somehow locate what country he's in or anything like that, you just don't know. Like I mean, also we're speculating. We don't really even know where he is, right? Like I have my own theories of where I think he might be, but they're just theories. We don't have evidence of it. It's always better if we just lean on the idea of fact. But there is pattern recognition, and I liked what you said, Mike, about Liberty Swap, essentially being commissioned or being an extension of Richard because they just know too much. Like, let's look at the facts. They just know too much. There is not, there isn't, like, they can't know as much as they know without having some involvement with the team, the developers, Richard directly, or someone who's got a direct line to him because, it just is what it is. And I mean, Osprey's done the deep dive as well on the actual architecture of Liberty Swap and the submission, like even the image files, and he's really, really, really good at spotting scams and bad actors. And it's rare that. Would you agree, Osprey? It's rare that you come across things that are just so pristine.
Well, the first thing I noticed about Liberty Swap was how organized the naming structures are for everything on their website. Absolutely everything. Everything is in such order. It's perfect, and it's exactly like you would see on PulseX or PulseChain.com. Same standards. There's no other site like it. That's the first thing I look at. Just developer options. Go in and just check everything, and it gives you a real good signal about the attention someone is paying to their project. It's not just about they carry as much. They value doing things absolutely to the T, and that's really
Yeah,
good to see.
yeah. I don't know
And
if you
yeah,
guys have
even
seen the Liberty Swap documentation, the language that they used on the documentation. If you guys read that.
not yet. I
Doc,
sort of dabbled into that.
I have a question for for Doc, because you're really up to speed on the Clarity Act side of things, and that site you put together. So I've been paying attention to that as well. It's excellent. I was looking yesterday evening. I said to myself, what percentage of bills have been passed into law that made the Senate floor with bipartisan support? And I came up with an answer from the University of Virginia. They have a sort of a subsection sort of environment called the Miller Center, and it's a non-partisan organization within the university, and they just put all this data together to show that, what was it, 80%, more than 80% of the laws enacted since 2012 passed Congress with majorities of both parties having voted yes. So I thought that was like a good statistic. And what I will do, I'll tag you and I'll upload that so people can read it for themselves. But I thought it really played into the whole what's going to happen on the Senate floor for Clarity Act, and it just seems like it's very, very favorable as a statistic.
Love that.
Just what you think of that. Like, have you looked at that sort of data as well? I'm sure you have, actually.
Yeah, a little bit, in the sense of like basically bipartisan support. It was interesting to see that a lot of the 80% figure sort of come up similar to me for me as well, in the sense that what was interesting is, like you say, basically majority of things that come in that actually manage to get to Senate are generally agreed upon, because ultimately, but what for it to get to Senate, there is enough people right from the beginning, because the first hurdle is what we had with the banking committee, because obviously each sort of arm of government has its own committee, and obviously the banking committee is the big one, right? And that was the big hurdle, and that's why I communicated in the chat that this is the biggest hurdle, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh yeah, but it's got to be passed at Senate, etc., etc." And I don't think people understand that. I don't think people are aware of that statistic that you just said, Osprey, because that is the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is behind us, because Swami made a very good point today in the chat. Sorry, 99 made a very good point in the chat today, and he said, what anybody in Washington can be bought, and he's not wrong. Every person in that Senate has something that they have. One, either the group of people that they represent that need, or they're self-interested. Whether that's insider trading, or some maybe they've got a business in that industry and they want that industry to get clearer regulation. That maybe they're connected to a treasury account, or they want, they're part of a Bitcoin treasury account, or there's something for everyone to gain. And when it gets to Senate, we cleared it 15-9, if I remember correctly, which is huge, because we don't. I mean, also with context to the Genius Act, we've already cleared the Genius Act. This really is just an extension of what's already been passed.
Yeah.
But this extension is the final sort of nail in the coffin, so to speak, in terms of regulation for digital assets, and therefore therefore the greater crypto community, which obviously benefits us indirectly. This is the most important thing. It benefits. It doesn't benefit us directly. It benefits us indirectly, and that's the key difference. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing. They're like, yeah, but we're PDI. It's like, yeah, but we're also an island that's in an ocean surrounded by other islands that are being regulated. So we have to they want to be regulated. So that by them regulating, it creates a demand. Do you know what I mean? It's like the example I can give is like, what in the sort of late 1600s, you had privateering, which was regulated piracy. All right, so it was legal, it was authorized by the crown, and it was regulated. Everybody wanted to privateer, everybody wanted to make money. It was the wild, wild west. Oh, I've got a ship, I've got a crew, I want to steal shit, and I want to make money. And for good or for bad, right? It's not an ethical. I'm not getting into an ethical debate. I'm just saying, because there are good actors and bad actors that are using money, right? It doesn't matter. Money is just a tool, but crypto is the tool, and privateering is the regulation, and we are the pirates. But what people don't realize is that it was only when privateering was brought in, so the regulation was brought in, that the pirates had the opportunity to make money, because there was no niche market, there was no decentralized finance, there was no decentralized privateering that existed before privateering was regulated. That's what I'm trying to explain to people when I say indirect. We are in a niche market. If we get if the Clarity Act passes, it creates a demand, a supply and a demand for decentralized finance. Except we're not even going to be seen as criminals or pirates. We're going to be seen as also privateers that operate under no master. That's the whole game. The whole game is, we want regulation, we want the Stablecoin Act and everything that comes with it, which is now Genius and Clarity, and all of that passed, because it creates this sort of opportunity for decentralized finance coins like PDAI to explode and to flourish. But not only that, legally. So the key point of all this is, we want regulation because it gives us legal, it gives us a right to exist. Because at the moment we can say, yeah, but we're freedom fighters, we don't need them, we're completely separate, we're not part of the matrix. No matter what you do, you're always going to be connected to the greater connection of the matrix. You're always going to be plugged in at some point in some way, and you've still got to commerce with the rest of the world. And that means that, to be honest, we couldn't be in a better position, because we're actually lucky that the current what's been proposed to the Senate allows decentralized finance to exist. All they want is just people. They want regulation for people to cooperate legally and ethically. And this is why Richard was saying shoot themselves in the foot, because it paves the way for PDAI to exist. So yeah, it's super, super exciting. I'm obviously, you probably can tell, I'm all in on the Clarity Act. I'm super pro regulation, because I understand how much it benefits PDAI, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, and I know it doesn't make sense on the surface. But when you dive a bit deeper, you realize, oh wait, okay, so we need the regulation in order for it to expose what we can and cannot do outside of the regulation.
So Clarity Act becoming law would, by extension, magnify for many, many, many people the difference between permissioned and permissionless assets. And it would also bring about it would also highlight the legal functions of a coin like DAI. So it's like twofold, where the opportunity is magnified by it, and it's also rendered legal and rendered lawful. What we're doing here is lawful, according to Clarity.
Yeah, because it's being acknowledged. This is the
Yeah.
key. It's being acknowledged. And here's the thing, right? Everybody, it's the old adage of kind of, I don't know the adage word by word, but it's the idea that, if you can't stop it, then let's regulate it.
Yeah.
Because they know that they can't. They know that they can't stop DeFi. They know that nobody can. And so the only way that they can get around it is to regulate it. So they're permitting it under their guise of, of what they believe is true. And that creates a demand. Here's the other thing as well. Not only does it lawfully help us, but it also helps That's in terms of numbers, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to read that regulation after it comes to pass, and they're going to say, I don't like this, I don't like the stable coin, I don't like the fact that they can switch me off, I don't like this totalitarianism, because they might view it that way. I don't like this, I don't like that. I want true DeFi. And that completely creates the niche and the market and the unique selling point of PDAI, because it is true DeFi. That's what Richard, I believe, is talking about when he says shooting themselves in the foot, because they're trying to regulate DeFi because they can't stop it. But by doing so, they're also exposing their weaknesses. They're exposing their weaknesses because there's going to be oversight. There's going to be things that they've missed, and that's all showing up in the bill, right? That's all showing up in the bill. And they're also trying. It's a it's a balancing act as well, because they also want people to commerce in the US. They want people to come to the US and not feel like they're being stamped on like the old previous administration and the SEC because of how anti-crypto they were. So they want to come to the US, and they want clear guidance, and all the other countries, all 186, whatever the number is of countries today, they all need someone to look at and go, oh, we like their legislation, let's copy paste them, because someone's got to lead the charge on it. And that's what the US are trying to do. They're trying to get ahead of this revolution in decentralized finance and centralized finance, because ultimately they're more interested, to be honest, they're more interested in Bitcoin, Ethereum, smart contracts, the tokenization of all assets, their own stable coins, the stable coin super cycle that is clearly happening. The fact that Warsh as well has made comments about the way he's portrayed it, it sounds like he wants the stable coins to basically do well. So the stable coins Somi called it last year and the year before, stable coin super cycle, because it's looking like they don't want to look at the balance sheet anymore. They don't want to focus on the Fed as much. Walsh wants a different way around it, and so does Trump. And they've talked about Bitcoin, they've talked about stables, and they can print unlimited stables because they know the demand is there and there's no debt. This is the thing. There's no debt, right? They're not actually borrowing from the banks. Who are they referring? Who do they go to print money? They go to Tether. Tether is regulated in the US. They're about to launch their Clarity Act, pass it, should I say? It's a perfect recipe for success. Like, they can print unlimited money, which we already knew they could anyway, but they can do it more than they want, like more than they could have before. It's an absolute recipe for an alt season and a massive explosion in digital assets, and they know that, and they want Bitcoin to go to $1 million because they're all in on it. They've all got Bitcoin treasury companies. They want to become, they want to transcend the current financial institutions that they have at the moment, which involves the stock market and all the real estate and the S&P and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's just gearing up to be a huge we do need it. We need it. Not only do the bulls need it in general crypto, but we need it for PDAI specifically, because like we say, it's gonna pave the way for what's to come. And also it's going to create a demand, like I say, because there are going to be people who are looking for true DeFi, and they're going to say, I don't agree with this Clarity Act, I need true DeFi, and PDAI will fit that bill. It will stand alone outside of that bill, because I don't know if any of you guys have actually done the research, but I can't find another decentralized stablecoin that still exists other than PDAI, even though it's not pegged at this point. If that makes sense, because I mean, what else is there? Because even the original DAI guys sold themselves out. Rest in peace, Nikolai, but he wasn't. The remaining members sold themselves out.
There's also this idea of, how we're referring to it as stable coins. This new information that 99 Capital has released, how when they launched the RSR protocol or whatever it was, they've described it as a flat coin, which I thought was very interesting, because Liberty Swap had hinted at this many months ago, referring to it as an asset that instead is pegged to like fiat, like the USD. It's pegged to the cost of living like rise in value. So it's like it kind of goes up with the rate in which money is being printed, and that's known as a flat coin. So it's like it's pegged to the cost of living rather than fiat, which I thought was very interesting. How both of these paths kind of converging now, where we have pioneers doing one thing, kind of sending messages on the blockchain, like what we've seen, and then what Liberty Swap has kind of brought up in the past about this unstable coin they keep talking about. I thought that was very peculiar, and it kind of bypasses what we're talking about here with the Clarity Act.
The flat coin theory was floated last year on a Saturday morning in TG, and the guy, he was your namesake actually, but his name was Michael, but spelled a little differently. He was in for like 30 minutes and left, never seen again. And he floated this brilliant theory, and we were like, please tell us, please have more conversation about that. It was really good. It was really good conversation. It just disappeared. And it was like the most interesting thing I'd read in chat for about a year.
And it's just ingenious, and it reminds me of SDAI, how SDAI functions, where it kind of, I don't know if you see that price chart on Ethereum, how the rate in which the price rises is like about 2% per year, which it's not the same as what money printing is, but it kind of paints that picture. It really does, and it just kind of makes sense, right? Like, why would you want to hold a coin that's pegged to another currency that just devalues over time, when instead you could peg it to something where you retain the value of your, instead of, a fiat currency. I think it's ingenious. And I think this is where it's going with the help of the protocols behind SDAI. That's my view, at least. I'm still speculating here, but
Well, that would certainly match what Richard was saying about. I have a few things up my sleeve, right? But I'm not going to talk about that now. When he was on Wendy O's podcast.
Yeah, exactly right. What were we going to say, Tino? Oh, I thought he was
Sorry.
talking.
Yeah, I was. I guess the questions. It's probably. I thought maybe it's a question which no one can answer anyway. But I guess the only things I wish I could go through is and had a better idea of is, firstly, if they pass the law to, and with clarity, genius, and so forth, and then we know what it is. That's all well and good, but I mean they could probably change the law at a stroke of a pen if they wanted to, given this legislation. Like they can just bring in an amending act, like a year later, which makes it more restricted. I see too many people getting around the rules. I don't know. Maybe I hope that when PDAI gets created, it is it can deal with regulatory sort of evolution. The other question I had was I'm concerned, whatever you call it, is if PDAI does peg to $1, I think that, like, how do we know that we're going to be used instead of like Justin Sundai tries to like copy the code and try to do his own thing, like dealing with competitors from other chains trying to do the same thing and so forth. I hope there's. I'm just saying that I hope that there's going. I hope Richard's thought about those things as well. I don't expect you guys to answer how it's going to do it, but I'm just saying, like, we're going to have that in mind as well when it comes to post-peg, whether they're going to change the rules or some other competitor like Solana is going to come in and try and do their own thing. Every chain's going to have their own PDAI or something like that.
Well, regarding the tenor on the Clarity Act, one thing to mention about amendments is they're very slow, very slow. I mean, the whole stablecoin narrative has been around, obviously, as we know, since 2016, early 2017. It was really starting to get attention, and there was basically it's coming up to like 10 years now. So it's been 10 years for them to actually get to a point where they can regulate. Also, then they're just physically. They're actually just not going to have enough time to make any amendments until probably next election. just the way that it works with the Senate. Like they're not going to revisit this for another 3 to 4 years if they have amendments. I mean, obviously, I will go through it when it posts. There are, like you say, little grey things, sort of grey areas that they say, well, we'll put a pin in this. We can make changes as we want, and etc. etc. But I'll take a look at it when it all comes out. But generally, the rule is, like, especially with stable coins, because that is the hot topic, and that's really the center of this whole clarity thing, is the stable coins. So I think that's going to be pretty ironclad. They're going to set it in stone, a bit like they don't want any of the senators or any of the government officials trading anymore. They want a blanket rule where they say you can't trade while you're in office. That's it, end of. They're kind of going very literally. Why they called it clarity was because they wanted it to be as clear as possible. So yeah, it's a good question on that first part. So it's TBC on that. The only thing I will say is, if you wanted to look at it doomsday scenario, we pass, and we'll probably have, it could be 2 years, 2 to 3 years before they can even start proposing these ideas. Best case, we'll get a good 10-year run out of it, but I think we'll all probably have made our money and hopefully got out of the system, got out of crypto by that point, or be in a better financial. We'll have achieved our goals anyway, so I think we'll care a little bit less. But obviously, it's just crystal ball stuff, really. But your second question was about competitors. One thing I do want to say on this is the only thing I keep coming back to is the fact that at today's Ethereum prices, or at least when he offloaded it, you got to remember Richard Hart sat on $600 million, which is a lot of liquidity. So when you mention about the stable, this flat coin, basically the stable coin that's basically a flat coin, and that has this unique technology. Really, what we have is first mover advantage. First mover advantage doesn't always mean the best, because you look at the likes of Facebook, Bebo, all that stuff. MySpace didn't win, Facebook won, but MySpace did dominate for a good few years before Facebook come along. So first mover advantage is ultimately what it is. Also, I wouldn't be worried about Tron whatsoever. I mean, the fact that the founder is basically an enemy of Trump's fund at the moment doesn't put him in good stead. The whole court case, everything like that, they're butting heads. I think they're a bit, albeit distracted at the moment. But yeah, even if they weren't, I would say that it just depends on who the first person to move on it is. If we know Richard the way we think we do, he's probably thought about this and anticipated that technology. Obviously, he's a capitalist and he believes that competition is good for capitalism, which it is. Any creative space, it needs competition. You can't survive in a vacuum. You have to have competition. So he's probably anticipating that to some degree. But again, majority of the stable, I'll be honest, Tron, Ethereum, Solana, they're all bought and paid for, in the sense that their most dominant stable coins are all USDT, USDC, and the new stable coins. So, they're kind of, so they're quite happy with the CeFi. Do you know what I mean? A lot of their top projects are all invested by Coinbase, which is funded by a lot of American institutions, BlackRock, all that stuff. So the centralized finance game, really, I don't think it's going to affect them. I can't see them launching something. You're right that they might copy paste the code once he's launched it, but I think if he launches it the way that we all think he's going to launch it, no one's going to have time to go to even. You won't even have time to process what's happened. I think it'll just be it'll be a what a couple of things to obviously watch out for is the on-chain activity that Mike and Nine Iron, and I covered it a little bit myself, to watch out for, things on chain, the RSR, that, Maker's DSR, obviously the top 4 wallets, all that sort of stuff. So we'll get some pre-warning before the peg happens, some, but not a lot. So when the peg happens, it will be an insta peg. This theory of, we're going to slowly grind all the way up to $1, it's not going to happen. we might have a grind slowly. I mean, this is based on what I'm seeing anyway. I might be wrong on this. Obviously, don't take my word as gospel, but this is just what I'm seeing from the analysis that I've been fortunate enough to be shared with from Nine Iron and Michael, and because we're in this quite deep now. We're down the rabbit hole big time, so it's kind of like this idea that we'll probably. I mean, we could get to 15 cents as hard, on just on buy pressure, but we will be followed by an instapeg. If everything that we think we're seeing is true, it's an instapeg, and it can only be an instapeg because it's not the token is not built in the way like any other token. It's not a buy. It's not like buy and sells pressure. It is at the moment because it's disconnected from the system that's being built by the pioneers. That's the whole thesis, right? So once they connect it and it's online and they activate it, that's the key. It'll be instapeg. And what's that going to do, right? What's that going to do for all of crypto? It's gonna catch everyone's attention, and you're gonna have an explosion, right? If it goes the way that we think it's gonna go, it's gonna be absolute fireworks on Pulse Chain because everything's gonna be repriced upward in a big way because you've created all this value from nothing, right? And that's just the way it is. It's the same way people print money. You create value because it's printed from nothing, and it's the same way on chain. It's the same way anything has value. Except this is a really, really advanced system, and it's all being repositioned and activated, and we've even got time lock that's just sort of rolled out, and all these different things are getting moved around and positioned, ready for that moment, in my opinion. And that's the only when you say about basically come back to your question, Tenor, when you say about the success of how are we going to succeed competing with other people, that is our unique selling point. The fact that we can do it fast, we can do it instant, we can vampire attack Ethereum essentially, which is what you talked about in multiple videos on the lead up to Pulse Chain's release and after. And it's just the only way you can do it is to do it loud and do it fast. That's the only way this can work.
Well,
Because
just
yeah.
to add one tiny point to that, I'm not sure if you already said it because I was typing, but we're also doing it on a chain with legal clarity regards to the SEC. And when Tenor spoke about other chains having their own version of DAI, well, I would say not really. I would say they can try, but they don't have that legal clarity regarding the SEC. We are outside of that jurisdiction, it would seem. So that sets us in a completely different environment, which is a real positive, I think. Sorry, I just had to add that bit.
Oh yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. But yeah, General, I think that's kind of the way I see it. It can't be done any other way. It's got to be done loud, and it's got to be done fast, because that is your first mover advantage. And there is an argument to be made. You made a very valid point. If you get it wrong, ultimately, I think what you were alluding to is if you get it wrong, then other competitors can take advantage, and then you've lost your edge, and that's completely the game.
And no, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It was it makes, I mean, with all this discussion, it makes me have this theory that it's almost like the entire purpose of PulseChain itself is for PDAI. That's what it's. I'm starting to reach that. I'm starting to get those vibes. Whether I'm right or not, that's what I'm starting to get. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
with established infrastructure to have PDAI there, and you also need the chain to be completely free from deep state banking to do it. And then having the fork of the state is how you achieve that in the first place, to set the foundation to launch something like that, it seems. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're totally right. I mean, I've got some wrote down here that I've sort of put in a note, because obviously I've been playing around a lot recently with research and everything. And one of the one sentence thesis, because obviously it's a thesis, but it's based on fact, is that essentially, and I'll just read it to you what I've got wrote down: a forked DeFi infrastructure that was systematically captured rebuilt, and is entering activation phase, backed by $3 billion in wrapped Bitcoin collateral and 3 years of documented on-chain preparation. So you've got a four wallet network, right? We all know about them: the 5996, the 86FF, 1967. That's the new one. 2822. They've all been executing captures since 2023, and it's all been corroborated by 99. So this is all on chain. This isn't us just hallucinating, right? We're not like just dreaming, like imagining all this shit. This is happening. It's happening on chain. Where we're sort of where our imagination kicks in is we're piecing these facts together and coming to conclusions, but they're all based on fact. That's the bottom line, and I think that's where it gets a bit. Sometimes we will get a little bit frustrated because obviously a lot of people come in and they troll and they FUD and all this and that stuff. A lot of the time it's just because they have no idea what the fuck's going on. But because and we're putting so many hours in. I mean, 99's literally. We did the number. Mike downloaded it, didn't you, Mike? With the 99 Capitals tweets, the archive.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like 2,700 tweets
700.
or something. Like,
It was interesting going back into his early days, because it's hard to find. You have to be scrolling forever. His first ever tweet was very interesting, very, very interesting. I have to find it actually.
and
I was
it was
just
like
scrolling
2 months
through
after.
Discord.
Also, Mike, don't you think it's weird? I mean, this is the other thing as well. Like, you know, this is what I say to a lot of people who are kind of PDI deniers. We'll call them the deniers because they're just denying all the evidence. They're denying all the stuff that's happening, even though it's right in front of them, literally on a silver platter. But they're just deniers. And I say to them, well, why is it that I think his first tweet, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was May 2023 was his first tweet, and that was like or July, I
It was
think.
July, yeah, because
July.
yeah, and it was a response to Richard Hart. It was in July the 8th, because that's when he was
July
looking
the
at
8th.
accounts.
So you're
Yeah,
looking at like
2023.
less than 2 months after Pulse Chain launches, and it's like within 2 months he'd already established the conclusion, essentially the beginning of what he's concluded now, and been consistent the whole time. And people are like, oh yeah, no, it's just all a load of bullshit. It's like, dude, the chain was live for 2 months. 2 months. That's like 7 weeks. And this guy had already established the early beginnings of what. Do you know what I mean? And the fact is, things like these wallets, just the coordination of these wallets that was happening before it even launched, before the chain even launched. And people are saying, oh yeah, he's lost control. Someone else is extorting the chain and all this sort of stuff. It's like, dude, they didn't even have access to it prior to launch. The only people who had access to it was Richard and his team. It's like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir anyway, Mike, really, and I'm just saying that. But
Yeah,
you know,
it still does. It's kind of nice anyway to to hear it again, to be honest, because it's kind of laughable. Do we really think Richard Hart, who built Hex, a pristine product, flawless operation? Obviously, the price doesn't look too great, but like that, you obviously got the SEC, him defeating the SEC, hiring the best lawyers, those in which that Elon had Trump has used. It's not consistent with what we're seeing on Pulse Chain at the moment, and it's all deliberate in my view. We're seeing, basically all these quote unquote exploits to get all the weekends out, and then fireworks in the end for those who believed.
yeah,
That's the way I
exactly.
see it.
Also, a lot of
I'm just
these.
posting 99's first tweet
Oh,
now,
mate,
and his second tweet.
nice,
Yeah, sorry, go on.
nice. Yeah, I think the pools are great for the space.
I have to make a confession on PDI. For me personally, the fact that that PDI was minted before the chain was launched, plus the fact that the PDI was the first logo on PulseX, to me personally, and I'm a pleb, those two facts alone established my conviction in PDI in the absence of literally everything else. But I don't know, maybe there were some more technically minded people than me may require more reasoning, but those two alone were for me like the reason why I was like, oh, this actually could be something to consider.
No, that's right. I mean,
Yeah,
Those,
20,
those
22,
points,
22 days before fork.
yeah, I think those points outweigh a lot of the noise and theories alone. The
plus,
theories that
obviously, you've got.
come from.
This is another big one that's going to get overlooked. The fact that 414, Maria, building basically an entire liquidity web, which is based on Hart's law. Hart's law, the fact that the liquidity bonding. He's literally built an entire ecosystem based on Hart's law. Purchased P stables at the very bottom during that exploit that you just spoke about, or one of them actually. And I'm saying quote unquote exploits when the prices were at an all-time low, when it hit a price bottom that would give you a 555,555x from the bottom to $1. That's when he bought all like 3 billion P stables, I believe, and created an entire web. That alone as well is kind of just another thing. It's like, oh yeah, you just happened to build on PulseChain, this very reputable, very credible developer who once worked for. I have to go to my notes again, but he worked for some very credible businesses. I think like Microsoft.
NASA. Yeah.
NASA. Yeah, I was going to say NASA, but it's kind of unbelievable to think about. Yes, NASA. And then obviously
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's
Caddy
wild.
exploit. Caddy worked Caddy and servicing. The exploit that happened in 2025 March. Her, pumping a Troper pools. Like, why are they sending money to 414? Why did the exploiter let Caddy win the auctions? All these different things. It's like it just doesn't add up. This many coincidences don't fall into place this neatly for it to be. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I could go on for hours. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Well, also the fact that no, it's totally right, Mike. I mean, the fact that the fact also that Richard was I think where the disconnect is a lot of people like to take things at surface level, right? And I get that because it makes life a lot simpler. But when it comes to
Mm,
cryptocurrency, it's literally in the name, cryptographic, crypto being cryptic, comes from the word secret, right? Like hidden. People need to step outside of they need, it's basically holding two counter views simultaneously, right? So why can't Richard deny PDI and be building PDI? Why is that such a wild concept for people? Why can't he say publicly, I'm not attributed to it, it's a garbage coin, it's trash, and be building secretly? Because the on-chain data says the opposite of what he's been tweeting. That's a fact. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Because I mean, but also even his tweets, there are secret, there are clues in the tweets, and this is the thing about the divide, right? The whole civil war of PDI, as DJ Khaled called it yesterday, which made me laugh. He was like the civil war of PDI back in 2025, which was it really was a civil war, because ultimately, people you've got your hardcore believers, which majority of the chat is full of now. I would say that's fair to say. Majority of people still left are hardcore believers. But basically the idea is that there are a lot of tweets that he's posted and that the on-chain data says the opposite of, because unless you go back to the idea that 22 days before the fork, Richard Hart lost control of the RSR, which is the reserve, the RSR, which is what we're talking about with the reserve protocol and the compound and the RV and the RV and the yearn and how they all connect. And unless you believe that narrative, why the fuck would he launch PulseChain? If he knowingly knew that he lost control, because he would knowingly know, you don't employ 14 devs and not be able to check their work. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So even if we go with that narrative that he's lost control of the chain, why would he still launch it? There was no need for him to launch it. He already went back on launching it. Do you remember? I don't know if you were here, Mike, and I know Osprey, you were here. There was a few others that were here prior to when Richard first said in the very, very beginning, oh, 2 more weeks. That's where the whole culture meme came from, right? 2 more weeks. Because
Yeah.
he posted on the X, Pulse Chain's going really well. We're looking at 2 more weeks, right? And 2 more weeks never came. It went on for like months and months and months and months And it was because he wanted to get it right. That's the point.
And
He wanted to get it
and
right.
of course the SDI protocol, which went live a day prior to PulseChain Snapshot. Just another coinky dink, you know. I just posted some tweets just for you guys just some reminders of all these different, the PulseChain pegging train. I thought this one was great too. The how to get your stickers up real high, screwdriver in the hole. How to get your tickers up real high. That one was a really huge signal for me as well. But yeah, all these different things. But yeah, the timing of SDI and SparkFi protocol, co-founded by Hexanaut, once upon a time a Hex fan. That's a fact. You can check it on Twitter. Um, it's pretty clear to me. That's another huge signal. That's also on the PDI Guide website, a whole page dedicated to SparkFi. If you want to check that.
Yeah, big time, the SparkFi. Yeah, because there were so many delays. I just find it I find it interesting that he was almost waiting for that tech to launch. And the trigger signal that I'm looking at right now is the wallet 2822, because that's now that for me is the primary activation. That's the big signal. 99 post, signal, capture, fix, relaunch. 2822 is that's what I'm waiting on next. That's when I'm going to get really bullish, really bullish.
Isn't that the liquidity wallet?
It's one of those wallets that participated in the PulseChain launch. Yeah, it kind of interacted with various ones.
I think that wallet
don't know.
offered like some liquidity to make a DAO and the compounds when
I think
pioneers did the thing.
I don't know. Do you think 2822 will do it though, Doc? Because there's less plausible deniability, right? Because 2822 is clearly an operator wallet. Like that was a launch operator wallet. Again,
I mean,
it's
unless he passes governance, unless he starts moving the wrap Bitcoin. If he starts moving the wrap Bitcoin, then that would be the signal. If we put it this way, if we start seeing the wrap bit, that would be mayhem. That would be absolute fucking mayhem on the chain, because suddenly wrap Bitcoin starts tornado cash in, people are just going to start losing their mind. They're going to start losing their mind. Like we think it's been a shitstorm so far. Imagine that. People will be like, he's stealing it all. He's stealing it all. But ultimately, that is one of the key. Like we need the WBTC to repeg it, right? Because it's effectively the collateral. So that needs to be, and like you say, if he wants plausible deniability, it'd have to be. I guess the ultimate plausible deniability is, I don't work for you. I built these products, but they're not for me. I didn't build this. I didn't build that. I almost feel like it's almost full circle, Mike, to what you were saying about, is he even going to stream again? Because the argument is, if he doesn't stream again, there is a huge argument to say, he wants to take a back seat on all of this, and he wants to kind of be a participant in the ecosystem moving forward, as opposed to doing all the work and just doing everything. I think he just wants to be in a position where he sort of delegates,
a truly decentralized blockchain, right? One that a community manages in a decentralized way. Hence, Liberty Swap's inception. A developer that's, it's not the face of Richard, but one in which that appears as if it's a community member rather than a developer. That just, contributes to the fact that he's trying to be perceived as, well, it is not trying, it kind of is. Everyone's believing that Liberty Swap is just a serendipitous, community member who's just happened to come along, build all these really state-of-the-art protocols and whatnot. So I think what he's doing is working, and I don't know. Yeah, as you kind of said, I don't know if he kind of takes away from that by streaming. I don't know, or maybe it's just a temporary measure where he is appearing as if he's nowhere to be seen. Not nowhere to be seen, but not participating as much temporarily to get weekends out, as he's alluded to many times in his previous streams. It's hard to know.
Yeah, I do have a question for Doctor, if that's okay. It's about the Clarity Act.
Yeah, sure. Bro.
Yeah, so I've seen a post from a guy called X Turbo on Twitter, or X. He speaks about Clarity Act setting a rule to what it means to be decentralized, like one identity or group must not own 49% of the supply. Is this true? Does it apply to us?
That's. Can you give me the X? Do you know this name so I can look it up?
Yeah, I'll post. I'll post it on the.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, so they're still fighting that. That point is still kind of being fought. So that guy's speculating based on what's been proposed, but it doesn't mean that it's going to come to pass on that. Because it that argument weighs back into because there is going to be compromises as well. Like they're going to say, well, this person can't own this amount, etc. They've used the 49% arbitrary number because of the whole, the classics kind of in the US, where it's kind of like if you own 51% of the company, you're ultimately in control. So the rule is like if you're not in control, you give like, the classic 49%, you own 49% as a founder, 51% goes to the shareholders, but you don't have control of your company. So it's kind of like that 51%, he's kind of arbitrarily taken that number. But what I'll do is I'll look into the actual legislation because I've got the pack somewhere. I'll take a look at it and see if there's any update on that, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Has anyone been following this hacked wallet? The guy that lost 200K or 125 million PDI. Has all that been dumped, or is there still more to get dumped?
Yeah, good question. I had the same question actually. I haven't
We
been
believe
looking.
it's more. I might want to hold on to it too. Why not?
Did he have 35 mil still?
I believe so. Yeah. Last count was 35.
Damn it. Okay. That's all right. At least, majority of your stack is gone. That's 70% gone. More.
We filled the gap a lot quicker in 2026 than we did in 2024, early 24. You wouldn't know.
At least Herman's gone.
Yeah, that would. I think that really tested people's metal, back then.
It was interesting seeing 99. 99 even made a line chart showing his holdings and the when he was finally depleted. The anagram from mean RH. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, you've been here a while, Michael. You remember all of it.
I tell you what, it's there was a lot of digging. A lot of digging.
I was just thinking about
Were
what.
you around? Were you around for 99 being in a Telegram voice chat like this? I hear that he was once upon a time the Enigma 99 in the. Have you ever heard his voice?
No, never.
Really? Damn. Has anyone else here heard him? Are we all feeling new? Because I hear that he did contribute to a voice chat once upon a time, early days. But who
Could have
knows?
been. I didn't ever hear his voice. No.
Damn. Because I'm hoping
And I
that's
think,
wrong. I'm hoping that's false, because that'll,
yeah, I
solidify
think,
the idea of that he is a
yeah, I
true.
think that could be noise, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me as the type of person that would lend his voice to anything. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
that's or what, but everyone has their way of doing things, and you got to respect it, I guess.
Yeah. It's like Somi. He doesn't join live, sessions that often. I know he does occasionally, but similar.
Yeah, why is that? I mean, he
I
doesn't
don't
mind
know.
putting his voice and an image out there. It'd be good. It'd be good if he joined.
Yeah, it's peculiar. I think he values, um, kind of permanent content that'll eventually be out there more so than a live piece of content. Do you know what I mean? Because something like this will kind of be once and forgotten. Obviously you record it, which is good, but it's not going to be live on his YouTube. Not live, but published on his YouTube. So
He must have
I
his
think that
own.
might be why. It's
Yeah,
because
he
of
must
the
have his own
strategy.
theory.
Yeah, because I remember he was saying that he spoke to like Stokesy, which is like another Aussie crypto streamer, and he was finally, because I only recently did somebody start streaming live once a week or something, and he's only doing that because Stokesy apparently kind of encouraged him to do it. So he doesn't see the value in live kind of
Okay,
sessions like this. I think that's why, or he's part of
that's
the
fair enough.
cabal.
Fair enough. He knows
I
his
doubt
market
it.
best, and he knows his metrics too. So you got to respect it.
Yeah, it's it.
I was listening to Doc Dan, and I was just thinking in my head, we got some good material about what was Doc saying about the magnifying the differences between permissioned and permissionless assets. It's going to become clarity would make things. It would make that division far more obvious to people, because a lot of people are going to be talking about it and writing articles about it and stuff. So one thing I've never done is pay to promote on X, right? Because our community is like been excellent at engaging, and we haven't really needed it. There hasn't been a necessity to do it yet. Like the outreach is good and it's strong, but I think as and when clarity is passed into law, it could be a good time to do a promotion, and I'm seriously considering throwing a good bit of money at it to put out there the most popular video, which was all about just highlighting the differences between permissioned and permissionless regarding stablecoins. That video it traveled really, really well without any monetary push behind it. No promotion.
Which one was that? Is that on your Twitter?
Yeah, it's
On
pinned,
the dive?
and
Okay.
it was. I just called it "Who Has the Final Say." That was the premise behind it. But I believe it's in. Within the terms, X's terms about like advertising, etc. Like we wouldn't get any penalties for promoting something like that. But I think it's a very powerful video to make people to capitalize on that moment. When clarity becomes
Yeah.
law.
Interesting.
I've just never paid to promote before, and I just wondered, does anyone know if there really is value in it in 2026 or not? I mean,
Would be
is what
worth
we're
wait.
doing
I
good
mean,
enough?
because it's not really. Okay, what I was going to say is that it's not yet a stable coin though, or an unstable coin. That's the thing. Like you'd be promoting it as still a speculative asset that will eventually, the idea will be to eventually peg.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a funny one. because if you are promoting it to those who are looking for some speculation, I'm not sure if it would resonate. I don't know. I have to have a proper look at it, I must say. Yeah, it's a hard one. Nice video though. Did you make it in After Effects Premiere?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I
Do you know what I
did
mean?
quite
Like, are we
well.
selling it? Are we selling it as a speculative asset or one? I guess we would be, right? Especially at the prices that it's at now.
In that instance, I was really only focusing on what stablecoin issuers say, but what they do in private. It was just showing the opposites, you know. And
Yeah, okay. I noticed you do that a lot. I love it. Where you comment on, the posts of USDC, Circle and whatnot, kind of showing that contrast. It's very clever.
yeah,
Is
it
that what you
worked.
mean? Like you kind of illustrating that within that video?
Yeah, this
Sort of
one was about,
juxtaposing
it's
it?
about like the actual outreach to the issuers themselves, and then showing their code and also showing what they write in terms of private emails, which goes against what they state publicly. It's all in one place for people to watch. And if anyone,
I see.
I'd like to think that anyone who actually does spend the time to to sit still for 2.5 minutes and watch a video on their phone or computer is probably the type of person that would be interested in this community, because they're
Mm.
willing to put time in and think, oh, what's going on here? And
Well,
that's
it's
it.
worth testing. You can only test
Yeah,
it. That's the thing. I think, especially with digital marketing, you don't know if you don't test. That's what I
yeah.
always say. So it could be worth trying for sure.
I think I might do it.
Shishio, it was you who asked me about that guy's tweet, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
it was me.
Nice one. Yeah. So I've dived into that. To be blunt about it, that guy is just fear baiting. Hex Turbo is just fear
Is it?
baiting
Yeah.
people. Yeah, so I even took a look at his couple of tweets. I've seen his tweets before anyway. I didn't want to just like write him off straight away. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not. I don't think it's fair. Like broken clock is twice a day and all that. So, but yeah, it's just nonsense. Like he's just made up that number 49%. It's not even been stipulated by any of the by Congress or anything. So yeah, he's just made up a number. It's an arbitrary number. The actual number that's been detailed, which sounds more negative, but it's actually 20%. So basically, in the legislation, it states that anybody who owns 20%, a specific individual that they can prove. This is the key point. That owns more than 20% of the supply. It doesn't fall under U.S. jurisdiction, but it's only U.S. jurisdiction. So basically, what that means is if it passes, any
Neither of them supply. Yeah.
yeah, supply, but the way but that doesn't the reason it's not worth us worrying about or even concerning ourselves is a couple of reasons. Number one, Richard's not a US citizen. Number two, we're not on any centralized exchanges and have any plans to. If we want to be on centralized exchanges, again, that doesn't matter because of point number three. Point number three is no specific wallet can be attributed to Richard and Richard Hart only. By getting the SEC clarity, it was identified that it was a sacrifice for freedom of speech and freedom of movement, which means that those wallets cannot be attributed to Richard in terms of ownership. So, especially now that he's tornado cashed them. So here's the thing, and this is why he's such a fucking genius, because he's tornado cashed all of these wallets and taken them offline, right? And if he wants to come back in and own all the supply in a mix of 1,000 wallets, he can do that, and he'll still pass under the 20% Clarity Act and still have control of the chain, and we can be listed everywhere we want. It's fucking genius. So yeah, it's so nice when people try and poke holes in it. Like people like Hex Turbo are so valuable. The fact that he's misinformed and the fact that he's fear baiting is so beneficial for us because we can test these theories and try and break stuff and realize what level of genius we're actually operating with. You know what I mean? And it all comes back to first principles, though. If you assume that Richard Hart is just going to sail off into the sunset and never come back, which he should have already done, right? Then, you know, if he was going to do it, he would have already fucking done it. Then yeah, cool. It's all just a load of bollocks, and it's all over. It's all over. We'll just pack it all up, lads. It's over, right? But if that first principle fails and you believe that actually he's staying, then all of this is coordinated. Every single thing is planned. Every single thing has been thought of. There, we cannot. It feels like we're losing, but we're actually winning. The whole market is down, and yeah, it's just there's so many levels to the game, and he's thought about these things. So yeah, 20% because there is no proof that he owns those wallets, and because also there's an argument to be made. Here's another thing that 99's established recently. There is an active redistribution of wallets that are happening right now. Osprey's seen it on PDAI. He details it out. You detailed it every week, Osprey, didn't you? Like there is multiple redistributions that are happening on PDAI today, right now. And these risk redistributions are happening all on chain. So these key wallets, these 2822s and the 5996s, even the Marias, you could argue there is no central authority. There is no central supply owner. Even if they say the OA supply is never sold, blah, 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 blah. None of that matters. And here's why it doesn't matter for Hex or PulseX or Pulse, because they had SEC clarity. So they've already been signed off and they're already going to pass. The clarity cannot go back in time and say, oh, we changed the jurisdiction, even though Judge Amon has ruled in his favor. It's fucking genius. The whole thing's been thought out. He's already thought about it. He wanted to catch. I'm going to stand this. I'm going to die on this mountain. I'm going to die on this fucking hill. He wanted to catch the SEC's attention so he could gain clarity, so he could fork so he could get the clarity for the chain that he forked to build PDAI to revolutionize decentralized finance. That's it. That's it. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm always up for debate. I'm not saying I'm right.
4D chess.
Like, do you know what I mean? But that's all I'm seeing. That's all I can see. And there is anchoring bias and there is survivorship bias that somebody talks about. And we could all have it wrong, and we're the disillusion, the delusional people in crypto, right? We're the dietards. We're the extreme, right? Yeah, the hexicans, the polskins, now we're the dietards. We're on like the edge case of insanity, right? Until you're right. Everybody's crazy until you're right. And everyone's like, how do you do it? It's like, dude, I've been trying to tell you for years, But the thing is, you can't fight the macro, and things are starting to look up now. We need this clarity out to pass, so that, in my opinion, he can enact the next level. The fact as well that the RSR, I believe it was the RSR, Mike, wasn't it? If I'm remembering, because I've got a lot of numbers flying around in my head. That was the wallet that
RSI.
reactivated. Yeah, reactivated after 18 months. The 1.5 years, it wasn't active for 1.5 years.
Oh, RSR. The RSR is for that protocol name. Is that what you mean?
The wallet number, I think it was 2822 or yeah, I've got it wrote down somewhere. I've got a lot of numbers flying
5996
around.
is the one that the new activity that was 6 days ago was 5996 and it's been inactive for 8 months or something like that.
Okay,
Is that
cool.
what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah, that's what I was talking about. So the point I'm making is that the pioneers are not in a rush, right? So every time we get these delays, it's okay, because code is hard, as Richard always said, code is hard, code takes time. So when we get these delays, all he does is continues to build. And that's why he released that Christmas video and the ProveX video recently. And he said, I'm still here and I'm still building. Like, glory's around the corner and he's still posting. For the man that's sailing off into the sunset and never coming back, he's hell of an active on his phone. You know what I mean? For someone who's on the planet, like literally hiding in a bunker, he's hell of an active. You know what I mean?
Like you said, the years of infrastructure.
Yeah, it's just infrastructure. I mean, it's just being built. It's just like the roads, the bridges, all the everything that's required for a city to function, which ultimately is PulseChain, and everything is built on PulseChain. And Somi's now come to the conclusion of it. I've come to the conclusion of it. 99's been saying it from day one. Mike, Osprey, all of us, I think we're all kind of sort of almost getting to the conclusion that PulseChain cannot operate without a native decentralized stablecoin.
Yeah, it needs to be talking about Exico, and I used to laugh at it, but looking at the proofs now, I don't think that many's playing at all.
No, I agree. I think it was an interview with Wendy O. I think it was the same interview where he talks about that. She kind of giggles and he just holds a straight face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, create our nation state like
Exactly. Yeah.
and then let's bang it out.
There was just a message on the Telegram chat that Friendly Ghost is asking if we can continue the discussion about how many potential holders we have in PDAI. How do we square that with the holder numbers on pages like PLS Folio, Pulse Coin List? I think on Pulse Folio today it says PDAI has 568,000 holders. Yeah, Osprey, if you, I mean, maybe if you can get like an updated, get a breakdown again together. I think that's what he's asking for.
Yeah, I did
We'll
one
see
yesterday.
how many. Oh, did you? Yeah, sorry. Okay, cool.
Well, carrying on from what Doc said about distribution, yeah, I am, and I have been seeing it for several weeks, how there is a pattern. So I had a chat, I'll be very frank about it. I had a chat with 99, and I showed him that, I showed him the tables, and I said, I feel like there's a pattern, and we both agreed that distribution, when you look at it, that I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. So let's say 80%, okay, of PDAI is owned by somebody not like us. Let's say, because I think that's the case, right? So you have to factor that in, and then you have to come to the reality or the conclusion that we are very, very, very few. So this whole thing about having, I think at last count, like last week, it was 657 addresses. Had more than 10 million plus DAI. Now, then you have to factor in people spreading risk. So that number equates to individuals of a far lesser number. And then when you equate ownership of 80% sitting in someone else's control, you could be talking dozens to hundreds of people only. So we felt like in our conversation that staving off the publishing of data theoretically invites scrutiny that perhaps our friends, in quotes, do without when looking not to be found or backed across certain cohorts. So I just put it to 99 that it's like shuffling a deck. Maybe just don't look at the cards while they're being shuffled. It's maybe of benefit to everybody. But if people want to see that data, they can go and find it for themselves very easily. You can do it yourself with a simple scan of the holder list yourself. But I'm just going to hold off. I'm just going to hold off publishing it because I feel like I'm perhaps treading on someone's toes by doing it. The more I see the pattern of rotation. Yesterday, like the difference between the 11th and the 18th. Okay, I know we had this poor fellow that you know he clicked on evil and lost his money, but 158 addresses that were present in the holder file of the 11th were no longer present in the holder file of the 18th, and something like 70 plus addresses appeared in the 18th file that weren't in the 11th. So I know where those addresses went to because I follow them every 7 days. and it just
Wow.
the pattern is just becoming more and more like that. So I'm just inclined to just, no, I shouldn't be putting this out there. So I shouldn't be putting it on blast, like every 7 days. I just feel like I almost feel like I'm wallet watching, like publicly. It's like do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like if anyone wants to go and find it, it's easy. Just go and do it. But I'm not going to put it on blast. I just feel there's
Go on, Osprey. I didn't mean to cut you up there. I was just going to say, on that, Osprey. Out of curiosity, if any of us wanted to look it up ourselves, what would you say is the best source? Because some of these block explorers are only obviously listed in the first pages, and I think also what Friendly Ghosts was alluding towards, from what I can see, was how do we see the full list of the 568, 1,000 wallets? Do we have a source for that, or not so much?
Well, I do it on PulseChain Scan. So you can download a CSV, but I think the CSV on PulseScan gives you like the first 1,000 or 10,000 addresses. It's not good. You can't get any data off that really. So what you have to do is you have to scan each page with a browser extension. The extension I use is Instant Data Scraper, and I set it to 2 seconds per page, and I can scroll. I can just hit start, and it flashes through. It automatically clicks the next icon, and it scans the next page and the next page. So every 2 seconds, you get a new set of 50 addresses.
Dude, that's alpha. That's serious alpha.
Yeah.
I just got very excited.
So you can go all the way, and what's cool, like you can go all the way down to the last person, and you can calculate yourself 50 addresses. It takes 2 seconds. So extrapolate out, it'll tell you how long it'll take to do the whole holder list. Best thing is to leave the minimum delay to about 3 or 4 seconds, because that way you can leave it running while you go to sleep or whatever. But you'll get down to the bottom. You'll get down to the bottom, and you'll just start seeing all of these addresses with very, very particular amounts in. And you realize, one thing you realize is like people have habits. Like people love round numbers. People like the number 50. So when they held DAI, or DAI on Ethereum, they had to say 50 DAI, and they kept it there for transactions. But obviously that 50 DAI was mirrored across. So there's like thousands of addresses that have exactly 50 PDAI, thousands that have 100 PDAI, thousands that have 200 PDAI. And then you start moving into random numbers, and then you get up to thousands, and then 10,000s, and so on and so on. But the most interesting point for me for all of it is that I have come to the realization that the majority of the PDAI supply isn't owned by the likes of you and I and everyone else in this call. It's owned by a person or persons with hopefully our best interests in mind and the best interests of freedom in mind. And we can't really extrapolate accurate data while that metric is in play, because it's far too great to call a definitive distribution among holders. The data is there, the maths is there, that doesn't lie, but the reasoning behind it is just a little skewed. We really are a very, very small number of people, and I equally find it interesting. Like I posted this last week, and I looked up at the top of the screen, and it says 6,969 members currently, okay, and 323 online. Well, isn't that interesting? So I know 323 people online means active on Telegram in the last X hours or whatever, but it's always the same. It's a lot of that is just people who are interested in our group too, and they're probably invested here and they're paying attention to it. And over time, that number has gotten more and more correlated to I think, the amount of people holding actively holding a considerable amount of DAI. The membership count doesn't mean anything. It's a totally false metric. And I know for a fact that members were bought and paid for through third-party services when this chat first began. I never agreed with that then, and I don't agree with it now, because accurate data is wherever you can get accurate data, you're always going to be better off. Just pay attention to the holder list more so, and extrapolate that. The math speaks for itself. We're a very small number of people. You can look in here any given day of the week, and it's the same people talking. We have become refined down to a small number. It's excellent.
Have you found any patterns in sellers at all? Not necessarily looking at the buyers. You know,
The sellers
it works both ways.
Yeah, the sales happen in the 1 to 5 million cohort always, and it's been that way since the initial Better Bank event. It also happened around the Katrina and surfacing, but the sales were across the board, up into around the 20 million cohort as well. But ever since then, the majority of selling takes place in that 1 to 5 million cohort, especially around events that would spook people. And the same can be said for positive news. You'll see a lot of buys in the 1 to 5 million cohort as well. Whereas the rest of the table stays very, very steady. I think I have data now going back a year and a half regarding cohorts.
All right, guys, it's getting a bit late where I am, so I'll say goodbye. But thanks for all your help and whatnot, all the information.
Michael,
Nice
I'll
one,
work
Mike.
on the little the logo for you for the book and the
Oh yeah,
for your I'll have a work on that
yeah.
this evening. All right, I'll come back.
No, Russ. Yeah, let me know what you think. Whether
No
it be a
worries, mate.
bot or a guide, not like hugely important, but it's kind of a nice touch, isn't it? Bit of a
Yeah, you bet.
wrap bow over it, I thought. Cool. All right. Well, I'll speak soon, eh?
Rest well. Cheers.
See ya.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of attention on the Clarity Act recently, but I still feel like the price of ETH is still a big factor on when these levers get pulled. Like, I don't see Richard making moves with ETH at $2,000. Like, why would he rotate a bunch of ETH at that price into PulseChain?
I mean, the sentiment's so bad, even if you try to do it, that you just get dumped on, just like what happened in January 2024, basically. He like rotated 14 million or something into PulseChain, and it just formed the local top, and he got burned. I don't think he wants to do it again anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It was March. I think you're right. It was March 2024. The ISM just ticked up, and we had a bullish uptrend in crypto overall. Everything started pumping, and yeah, he started deploying funds, and yeah, we got completely sold off. So yeah, you're right. He did that, and then he did it again. Well, we don't know. We know for sure that he did it in March 2024. He did it again, I think, sometime later that year. I can't remember. I think may have even been 2025, but there was some plausible deniability about the address. And then there was a recent one. There was a recent one where another one someone else bought in, which I think Crypto Solved did a little bit on it. I'll have to try and find it, but talked about how that was linked to Richard, but it wasn't directly. Like the direct, like undisputed Richard purchase, the last one was in March 2024. And like you say, he got sold off. But yeah, dude, you made a really good point about that, about Ethereum. Clarity Act is only just one major piece of the puzzle, but there is still the overall market, which is exactly what Tenor was alluding to, which is that the market cannot sustain green candles at this time, regardless of the project that you're in. So until bullish sentiment comes back and the macro starts turning upward, which clarity should be a knock-on effect from. There's no denying that, because there's just so much buy pressure that is literally sidelined at the moment. I mean, the conservative estimate that I was looking at was at $800 billion over the first 6 months waiting to be deployed, which is like a 40% of the total market cap, something in liquidity. It would just literally cascade a huge bull run to the upside. Because it's slow and steady, but it's aggressive purchasing. Because you've got to understand as well, these institutions are going to be fighting each other, less about retail. They know retail ain't here, they're not bothered, but they don't care about us. They care about each other. They're fighting each other. You know, this whole theory, they're all in on it together. It only goes so much, because they are still competitors in their own right. Right. So BlackRock, JP Morgan, yes, they have some shareholders that are aligned and stuff like that, but ultimately they're all fighting each other. Like all the pension funds, they're all fighting each other. All the financial institutions, they're fighting each other. Like they all want a piece of the pie, and a bigger piece of the pie than other people, right? So yeah, it's definitely gonna start something once we pass clarity. Basically, really, it kind of hinges on clarity, to be honest, in terms of this year, in my opinion, in terms of greater bull market. Because without clarity this year, we're going to be looking. It's going to be another year or so. Just is what it is, in my opinion. Because there is no other great bullish effect. There's no there's nothing really stop. Like what is there left to do, in the sense of like where's the money going to come from? Because retail aren't interested. The only people that are interested are institutions, and if they don't get clarity, they're not going to be able to get in. So who's buying, right? The BlackRock and all that are buying, but they're limited. They can only buy a certain amount. They have to go through their clients. They have to go through middlemen. They can't buy directly. So many institutions can't buy directly. They have to go through clients. So, but if we do get clarity, you've got a huge purchasing, and like I say, that's conservative. It's 800 billion to come in on the next 6 to 12 months. Really, it's 6 months, because there's going to be a huge rush of people buying. And even the argument when people say, "Oh yeah, but it's going to be OTC," it's like, yeah, dude, but all these OTC counters are going to run out of stock. And where do they go then? They have to catch the bid. They have to go online. They have to buy it through the exchanges. And then not only that, you're going to have country states and all that sort of stuff. You know, your El Salvadors and all that sort of stuff coming in, because they're going to have clarity from the US. So they're going to have, oh, okay, we can actually follow this. Let's follow suit. Let's copy paste what they've done with the Clarity Act. Let's bring it into our country. And then you're going to have like the next wave of adoption. So yeah, Clarity Act needs to come, and then followed that, we need ETH, as you said, dude. Like 7K minimum. 7K is a good number, really, because psychologically we've broken the all-time high clearly from the highest point, and we're on the trajectory for like 10-15 then, because once you broke 7K, you got so much resistance at that, so much resistance at all-time high of ETH. Once we can clearly break it, and I don't mean just like tap it like we did last time, like actually break through and hit 7K and beyond, then you're looking at like a $1.2 billion rotation, I think. Might even be 1.8. I think it was at least $1 billion from Richard Hart. I think it was at least 1.2. So then, yeah, that meant about then you got so much liquidity, it's unbelievable. And it's funny because when you look at videos from Richard when he was talking about recent videos, ProveX and Christmas video, you could see the apparent, you could see the clear frustration on his face when he was talking about ETH and his performance. So it's not. I think there's a lot. That's one of the theories that doesn't get enough love. Like the rotation theory is there, and it is huge, because if he wants glory and he does want to win, he can multiply that money by rotating it into PulseChain, and then he knows that, because you got to remember, we're going to be selling to people that are not here yet, and the only way to get people on is green candles. And the only way we get green candles is if we get a good economic environment in crypto overall, get clear clarity, and then we can start moonshot into the upside, because all the macro is lining up, right? We've had ISM above 50 for 4 consecutive months now, so things are clearly upticking. But again, a lot of the institutions are sidelined, and I don't know about you, but $800 billion to go into crypto over the next 6 to 12 months is pretty much going to, it's going to help us quite a bit.
Do we? I mean, so I feel like there's two different things we're talking about. Like pumping pulse chain is different than pegging PDAI. And I guess there's still question on how the PDAI gets pegged. But I mean, I think we're all assuming that he controls most of these tokens, so he's just gonna pull, use all of these, like the Aves and whatever DAI, MakerDAO type mechanisms to, submit collateral, take out loans, buy more, like use this flywheel effect. Do you feel like that even needs ETH? Is that separate than rotating ETH and just buying PDAI up to $1? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, well, it's collateralization. So he needs to collateralize what he's got, basically. So we need WBTC, we need that to be repriced higher. We don't actually know. Here's the interesting part: is we don't know what level of collateralization he has planned. So is it going to be 1,000th or 100,000th? Because you can, or 100th. If you want to print $10 billion, are you going to have to put up one for 10? Like, you're going to have to put $1 billion on the line in order to collateralize 10. Does that make sense? So like, we don't actually know what that number is. So we're just assuming that $1 billion or 500, 600 million. I think Nine Iron, if I remember correctly, he did post along the lines of 600. I think he said something about 600 million was like the worst case scenario that we would need. There was some number of that I remember was flying around, and that would ultimately collateralize everything to like $1. That was the whole idea. And the flywheel does, like you were saying, is like 90% of the work. So the flywheel just like builds upon itself, but the ignition is like X amount of dollars, and I don't know what that number looks like. If you're Richard and you're thinking, well, I need $600 million to peg PDAI and then create this unlimited money glitch, but I want $600 million as well as like backup money or governance money or whatever the next, because obviously no Richard for Richard, there's going to be an extension beyond this plan, right? So, we don't really know what that number is. He's probably got a number in mind that he wants to hit ignition. And I think he was also assuming what we were all assuming, which was that we were going to have the bull market of all bull markets. But because the Fed was so late to change the rates, where we kind of missed it. But we do have Walsh coming in now, and maybe he'll bring about a different kind of operating basis. So yeah, it's lots to think about. But no, you were right to say like pegging is one thing, and the having the funds is another. They do intertwine, but we don't know what that number is.
So, I mean, with that being said, I feel like July is like super early because, you're talking about 800 billion coming in. I feel like that's not going to be like FOMO retail style where it just appears overnight. Like these larger institutions, they move slower. And you were saying 6 to 12 months. So Clarity Act happens in, let's say, June or July. ETH, the bull market is not going to be till the end of the year. So why would we hope and expect DAI pegging, immediately after the Clarity Act.
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends. It really does depend, but it depends on whether you believe he's gonna peg it into a strong market, or if you believe that he's gonna peg it into a market on the way up, right? It depends on it depends what. Obviously, a lot of it is theory. We don't know for sure, but but on the $800 billion, if you extrapolate that across, a whole year, you're talking about like 2.1, $2.2 billion of buy pressure every day, and that's all going to go into Bitcoin and Ethereum predominantly. So yeah, I mean, it will take 6 months or so, but it in terms of buy pressure, because obviously, again, we don't want to conflate PDI with money coming in, but you're going to need Clarity. Does two things. Clarity sets up institutional money coming in, and it sets up PDI for legal clarity. So, like legislation in terms of how we can operate, the do's and don'ts, the cans and cannots of PDI as an entity. So it's a two birds with one stone, really. It kicks off the bull market and it makes room for PDI to be able to do what it needs to do. So it's like they are separate. But yeah, $800 billion on the conservative side is $2 billion a day. The total market cap right now in liquidity is not a lot of money. We're talking. I need to check my numbers. Last time I checked, we were in between the 400s. I think the alt markets itself is like somewhere between 250 and 300 billion thereabouts. So it is massive buy pressure because it's like 1% of what we currently have coming into the market every day or every other day. 2 days at a time. So you're kind of like expanding. Think about it this way: it's like a forever purchase into the market every 2 days. So it's quite a lot. And you're right in the sense that they might not all be rushing to. There might be like 2 or 3 major institutions that are constantly buying right from day one, and then there'll be some that won't show up till like 3 or 4 months down the line because some of these institutions are slower than others. But I'll be honest, they've been chomping at the bit for 3 years now. Like any institutions who are not ready are going to miss the boat, and they know that they have to be ready because there's just too many clients, there's too much money on the table. They know that everybody's buying Bitcoin and everybody wants Bitcoin, and then we're going to have that flow, right? There is an argument to be made that the institutions will kick off the bull market for retail, because ultimately we're like, we don't even make up, like, we're less than 10% of the market now, overall.
I'd like to add a point to that. Yesterday I saw something that was really intriguing. Morgan Stanley, which is a $1.5 trillion institution, they're paying $1,500 to Bitcoin and crypto buyers who sign up for E-Trade. Yeah, so we're looking at an advanced adoption by institutions trying to get people in.
Wow.
That's a cool stat. That's the first I heard of that. Nice one. How's about that, huh? That speaks volumes.
I thought so too. I mean, they're going to be paying people to get involved. That's actually pretty cheap for them, $1,500 a person. I mean, we're sending out tablets to new people. They're sending it to people who already have accounts. And all the banks that are now allowing crypto and talking about what 8 to 10% of your portfolio should be in crypto. I mean, you actually have analysts saying that. We never had that before.
They've changed their tune in the past year and a half.
Big time.
I actually got a letter the other day from a local bank, Permanent TSB, and they were revisiting recommendations around crypto protections for customers, and the wording had changed. The wording has definitely moved on from what it was 2 years ago. Even they were recommending, a certain amount of your portfolio to be held in crypto, and it's the first time I'd ever read it from this bank. I found that quite interesting to read. Just so odd that the notification of which arrives on fucking paper through a letterbox. But anyway, it's a strange world. It is a strange world. But they're obviously going where the money is too. Like
Yeah,
Doc
big
says,
time.
you know, you've got to be in it to win it. They're in it to win it too.
And also, you got to remember as well, like even the institutions are just one. They're just like one large pool of a lot of money, you know. But if you look at the distribution of society and countries and cities and towns and individual businesses and capitalism at whole, you know, across the US, UK, all the Western countries, all the people that are trying to be at the forefront anyway, you've got to remember as well, it's not everyone is in agreement. So you're going to have all these like changes in laws and local laws and individual buyers and buy pressure, and you're going to have, like, in a sea of mortgage lenders who have no interest in Bitcoin, you're going to have one of them try and race ahead of the rest and find a loophole of where, okay, we accept Bitcoin here as, for a mortgage deposit for you to buy your first family home. You're going to have those individual markets that don't yet exist but are coming. And yeah, that $1,500, Quinn, that's mad, because I mean, what's that on a payout level, right? You get 1,000 customers, that's $1 million flat right from the beginning, 1.5 million. But they're not going to have 1,000 customers. They can have tens of thousands and then eventually hundreds of thousands. And they believe in what's coming. They believe in what's coming, and they know it's coming. And like I say, you're going to have X amount of people that are going to try and front run the Clarity. Then you can have a real big impact. People who think that it's going to be a sell the news event don't understand what's happening with Clarity. They don't understand it, because they think that, oh, it's like everything else that we've had previous to today. What they don't understand, what they're missing, is that 2013 cycle, 2017 cycle, 2021, all these news, China banning Bitcoin, etc., that mattered to us because we were retail and we were fighting up against larger whales that had billions or whatever, and they were manipulating. You had your coin desks that would pump out all these bad news, and they would collude with whales or whale groups and all that sort of stuff. We don't have that anymore, because now the whales are not trying to dump on retail, they're trying to fight each other, right? They know that retailers are coming and they want to dump on retail to a certain degree, but it's not the be all and end all anymore. You know what I mean? Now it's about adoption. It's not about, I want to make money, I want to get rich quick. It's not about that. And I think that's where people are getting confused. I know it's easy to fall into this us versus them mindset, but it's not quite like that. It's like, these people are these are pensioner, these are like pension schemes, private pension schemes. These are your Vanguards and your BlackRocks who want to constantly buy things over periods of time, for a long period of time. These are like business models that kind of, they want to be around. They don't need to dump on people, because they know that with pensions, people pass away, right? So they get their payouts anyway. Like, the 11 trillion under assets, these are the biggest companies in the world, biggest. So yeah, it's a different game. It's just like, it's evolving, and it's not yet mainstream, but we will get there.
These are all such great points that you've just brought up. Also, I just want to point out that it's also about who's now number one. I mean, we all know BlackRock has the majority of assets, and they're a powerhouse, but maybe someone who wasn't so powerful before could be now number 3 or 4. It all depends on how progressive you are in getting the message out to your client base. It's an interesting world. I remember 07, 08, the stock market crash of 08. I mean, those bankers, they got together and they got Lehman Brothers. I mean, they took them out, and it was a grudge. So, these guys play together, and they also are trying to be number one. So yeah, they're it's you're right. It might not be about dumping on retail so much as clawing your way to the top. Funny, I just rewatched a movie about Steve Jobs, and his own board ousted him. And people thought, I remember Mac. A lot of people thought Apple was like now archaic, like doom and gloom. And the the president, after Steve Jobs got ousted, and then Steve came back and better than ever. So you don't know who's going to be these top dogs, because this is a completely new world. But it's been going on for a while. I mean, 2012, Fidelity. I think I brought this up before. People at Fidelity don't even know that their company has been buying Bitcoin way back when.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, Jamie Dimon was the biggest culprit of all, right? He was actively trashing Bitcoin publicly from 2013, 2014, said it will never take off, it's all a scam, while quietly buying it.
Yeah, getting it for cheap by trashing it publicly.
All been documented.
Yeah.
It is a case of like, okay, where's the intrinsic value headed? I mean, for all we know, we don't know that Warren Buffett doesn't own companies. There's no evidence of this, but we don't know that he doesn't own companies that are buying Bitcoin, and he's saying it's never going to take off, right? Because they do that. They are known to do that. It's a classic FUD tactic that these stock market people have been using for aeons. You FUD what you want, and the perceived perception of value is often more important than actual value, because that's what it all is. I mean, let's be honest. How many people are buying Bitcoin and they don't know why they're buying it, but they're buying it because they think that it's going to be worth something. There is a percentage of people that are like that because it's what they perceive is going to be the value, or others believe it's value, so they just get on part of the bandwagon. And yeah, it's just headed that way. It's exactly as you said, Quinn. Like they're just going after each other, and it's like the only way I can, like, if it was like a infographic, if we saw it as a visual, it's like we're swimming with whales, right? And the whales are battling each other. We are just shrimp or mackerel or whatever, sort of we're sort of the bacteria or the shells on the back of the whales compared to the size of these guys. So it's just kind of like they're not interested in us. We just have to all we have to do is position ourselves in a way where we benefit from it. That's all the game is. Somebody talks about positioning. The secret to markets is positioning, and that's all we're doing. We're positioning ourselves in a DeFi, decentralized finance ecosystem, speculating on an asset, an unbacked stable coin that we believe will be backed and will connect, will hit $1, 600x, right? That's asymmetrical upside in an ecosystem that has been it's had everything that's thrown at it that you could have possibly had. But the SEC beat them, Interpol, Europol, fake trumped up charges, like made up charges, come at us, still fighting, still ongoing, slowly winning, very, very much so winning actually, in based on recent events. But we've had what every ecosystem could have, like the opposite of what every ecosystem could want, and we had it, and we still survived, and we're still here, and we're still one of the most active communities in all of cryptocurrency. And when you look at what Sami talked about very recently about Tron, and some of the stuff that they went through, and XRP, even the XRP, like love them or hate them, the XRP army went through it all as well. They went through the ringer too, and they came out triumphant. They got their run. What doesn't seem like a huge run for us because we weren't accumulating XRP for 3 or 4 years like they were. But we have more in common with them than we do with almost any other cryptocurrency, because they went through so much. They went through the ringer. They didn't go through. They went through as much as we went through, if not, sort of same level. I won't say that we went through more because it's hard to measure, but we have so much in common with their ecosystem in the sense that they were just hammered and hammered and hammered. And the SEC literally went after them like predators, like they did with Richard. Except Richard won, got clarity. XRP won, got clarity. There's a little bit of a tuffle now where they're still kind of like back and forth. There's a couple of things that are still arguing, but that's all going to get ironed out as well. The point is they had their comeback arc So the people that were accumulating XRP at the bottom, they benefited ultimately when it got its run, and we're going to do the same. Tron did the same. Tron got its run again, you know, and we're going to get our run. So it's all about positioning. It's getting ahead of the crowd, getting that edge, being ahead of people, believing in something that other people don't believe in, using like weaponizing the FUD, like as in seeing that the FUD is a good thing, and just, you know, making your bets.
If you look at just looking at the chat screen here, the VC screen beneath Quinn's name, look at the bio. Fortune favors the bold, it says here. It's so true. Like, it's everything we're talking about there. The banks realize it with their updated shtick, and the big players realize it. The people voting for Clarity Act realize it. Fortune favors the bold. I mean, you're never too big to walk it back and adapt to the technology. I think it's, the technology it drives everything. This is historically the way, and these players, no matter what size, the small and the large, are having to adjust and be bold. It's a good line. Fortune favors the bold. I just saw that and I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. Good line. Good line.
I certainly didn't come up with that. I mean, that's probably Richard's, or someone wrote it before Richard said it, but there's so much truth that Richard has taught all of us. And that's why I stay here, because as I've said in one of the last video, one of the last conferences that, or Telegram chats, is that the man has said he was going to do something and he does it. And as long as he continues to do what he says he's going to do, I'm still with him. I've trusted him, and I think we're all very fortunate to have learned a lot from him. And we take, I mean, things happen. Unfortunately, that gentleman recently just got cleaned out by switching to Piteus, and spelt it incorrectly and wasn't looking. And, you know, Richard always poo-poos that. It's hard to protect everyone. People, we all know what to do. I bookmarked from the beginning, and I don't use my cell phone to trade. I mean, like, there's lessons we've learned over time. And the other reason I love being here is because even the new people that will be coming in, we tell them what to do. What communities do that? Try to protect each other. Usually they don't even care about each other. So yeah, fortune favors the bold. And there was a TED talk recently that said, if you're trying to climb the ladder in corporate America, you're probably going to be frustrated, because it's the people that go out and try to make new businesses. I owned a business for 11 years. I'm a female in a financial world. So I was in a brokerage firm where there were 200 men and 2 women. You just have to go for your dreams, go for your desires. If you have passion in something, you will do well. I mean, if you don't go for it when you're young, or at the certain time when you can, even when you can't, do it as a side hobby. But I mean, we're foolish not to try to go for our dreams.
Here, here. Well said. Well said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's this is the other thing about speculation. What I loved that you touched on there, Quinn, as well. You mentioned, not just in that point, but prior to that, you mentioned about Apple. You know, the story about Steve Jobs is so interesting, because as we talked about price action, and, you know, people, like, how many people after Amazon dropped, or Apple dropped the level that it dropped, right? Because it went down. I think Amazon did more of a drop than Apple did. I think it was like 95% or something crazy, some crazy number. And it sat there for like 10 solid years before it started to make its recovery. You know, 10, 15, 20 years. So you got to think, like, who's buying the bottom, right? But somebody's buying the bottom. And, you know, it just weighs into this idea that a lot of people that bought into Amazon believed in Jeff Bezos. A lot of people that bought into Apple believed in Steve Jobs. And then obviously, like you say, he got kicked out of his own company, and then came back. But a lot of people will have followed him wherever he went. And I think there's a lot of us here that believe in Richard. And I think that that's the basis of investing. The whole basis of investing is not just about you wanting to make money. Obviously, that's ultimately what it's about. But how do you make the money? It's by investing in other people and other people's dreams and other people's aspirations and a lot of other people's ethos and mentality. And you're kind of outsourcing a bit of your productivity, right? So you're taking economic units and putting it into someone else or something, or a company that is represented by a person or a group of people that you believe in. It's almost an extension of yourself, right? And then you're hoping to obviously benefit from that person's success. So really, a lot of people here are invested in PulseChain. Some people are invested in Richard. Some people are invested in blockchain, and they want asymmetric risk. It's just everybody's here for a different reason, but ultimately you're investing in something beyond yourself. So I really liked what you said about going after your dreams and believing in yourself, because ultimately investing can fund that. If you make success, you make some money in cryptocurrency or any asset class, you can take those funds, you can invest them into yourself and your own families and your own communities. That's one of the things I love about this community. And you hit the nail on the head with that, because me and Osprey have talked about this a few times, and I can't believe this is the 7th VC actually, because this has been one of the best things that ever happened in PDAI, in my opinion. And really, we talk about it every week, and that is that the community is the code. Without the community, we don't have there is no one to journey this with, right? And like you say, if new people come on board, Quinn, then we'll be educating them and helping them and guiding them and supporting them, and we come together in times of crisis, right? Like we say with the guy using Mateus, Charlie. So there's an element to that. There's a lot to there's something in that, and I love that you mentioned that, because everybody's here for different reasons, and ultimately a lot of that is to pursue our own dreams and our own hobbies and interests. And there's a lot of weird and wonderful people in this world, and we've all got different quirks and makes us individuals. And a lot of us just need a bit of funding. A lot of us just need a little bit of money or a lot of money to live out what we want to do next. And I can't wait for that day. I can't wait for that day that we all win, like all of us. And I mean the real OGs, the soldiers, the ones that have been in the trenches from the beginning, just journeying through it. And we can meet up on those meetups, and we can ching some glasses together, champagne or orange juice, whatever you fancy, and we can celebrate, oh, we did it, we actually made it, and I've got this really cool thing going on. I've just invested in this business, I've just launched this product, I've just done this charity gig. I want to introduce you to my friend who's also in the same industry as you, but etc. etc. And it's just, you just don't know what's coming. If you could, and that's the game of investing, because you're speculating into the future in the hope that what you want is going to be realized. But the truth is, often is better than what you can imagine. But you just have to hold on. You have to hold conviction. You have to keep believing. You have to keep showing up, and go through these obstacles and these tests, because you get trials and tribulations along the way. Most people have quit. Let's be honest. The reason the chart is 90% down is because 90% of people have quit. That number is not correlation; it's a causation. So yes, if you're still here, you need to get. I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back, to be honest, because
You can tie that into. You can tie that figure into the membership versus online figure. A lot of people left in that March, and we found ourselves in a different spot in terms of distribution and real membership figures. It's a good point you raise. I don't think people fully realize how small a group we are. Everything about it is small. the VCs are a good average number for against the number of people that are active and online currently in the chat. It all rings true. We are a small group of people, far smaller than people seem to imagine or have imagined in the past. And we have a lot of bite online in the DeFi space on X. So we don't. No one is as. I don't know. You look around on X, Doc, and it's like there's nothing quite like this community. I think the reply guy stuff you're doing, but by the way, is off the charts, man. It's absolutely brilliant.
I'm having quite a lot of fun with it. I must admit.
Yeah, but look at the traction. Like it works. You know, it actually pays to be a bit abrasive and
You
like
do.
I'm not like that. So I've always found it quite like I feel a bit odd doing it. You get used to doing it because you know it's if it's data driven, then you're inclined to partake, you know, and do good for your community or whatever. But it's man, it really does work, you know. And it's funny. It's funny too. It takes the edge off the
Sort of
just
the
like
seriousness of it all.
yeah, it can be a bit daggers sometimes, but it's good to have a laugh. Like you had me a couple of yours last week really had me laughing. Oh, it's really good.
Yes. I mean, I'll be honest, I am laughing while I'm posting it as well.
Yeah, I'll bet you are.
It's good fun. Yeah, because it just connects. Like I think it's just emotion, you know. RH did it, you know, does it and said it best. You know, you've got to kind of it doesn't really matter how you connect, just make sure you do connect, because the outreach
Yeah,
is the most important part.
and in a funny way, you're connecting with the person you're replying to. If you have that bit of humor, they cannot deny it. You know, that the recipient cannot deny that it's like, oh man, you got
Yeah.
me there. You got me. And
Yeah,
they're more
they're
inclined
liking
to,
it.
who is this? You know, who is this guy? Who is this Dr. Beggar? Thinks he's hilarious. Let's have a look what it. Oh, right, this is interesting. You know, it does
It's so
work.
true.
Yeah, your execution is really good. I've been enjoying that a lot. It's good. I learned from it.
I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, it's all just it's just experimenting, trying what works, you know, new strategies, and ultimately it is the goal, which is, you know, if I just think if Richard can sit in a Louis V, you know, he's spending all this money on luxury goods and Louis V goods, luxury goods, and Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all that stuff, and you know he's twerking on stage and you know dancing on a pole like on Fresh and Fit podcast. I just think like, you know, a couple of tweets is the least I can do really, just to just kind of whether you're rage baiting or you're trying to make people laugh, they have to feel some form of emotion, because ultimately outreach is the most important thing. I mean, getting retweeted by Ant Middleton yesterday, although that's a very, very sensitive political subject, which, you know, I don't want to, I don't judge anybody for their own views. Everyone has their own political views. But the point is, I connected with him. That's the point, right? Whether I believe in it or not is that's my privacy. But the point is, I connected with it, right? And I acknowledged him for who he is. You know, I read one of his books, and one of his books was called First Man In. So I made sure that I mentioned that when I posted to him, because I wanted to, because that was a way to connect with him, because I actually liked that book. I really enjoyed it. And I connected with him. And for someone who I've watched on SAS, Who Dares Wins, on the BBC, or wherever you're watching it, you know, for some of us, we like Ant Middleton, you know. So for him to retweet it wasn't about Ant Middleton and me. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it was about the fact that he retweeted it, and
Yeah,
and that those people were going to see that and think, Dr. Pegger, who's that? Right?
yeah,
Click that, read what I said, and thought, oh, actually, he makes a little bit of sense here. Let's see what his profile's all about. And then they go to the pinned comment, and the top pinned thing is the SEC versus Richard Hart. Now for a lot of people that follow Ant Middleton, they're kind of freedom fighters, right? They're kind of pushing back against the narrative. They're thinking outside the box. There's loads of political tension. So they see Richard Hart versus SEC. Interpol, Europol versus Richard Hart, or Finland versus Richard Hart. They're going to go, oh, another freedom fighter. What's this all about? Who's this guy, Richard Hart? And then that's the rabbit hole. That's when it begins. And you just don't know. You just don't know who's watching. You don't know who's going to see it. Someone might see it. Mark Cuban's just flipped back to Republican, right?
Okay,
Mark, he's a huge. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw him rotating from left to right in the course of 2 years. But the point is, he's done it. So anything can happen, right? If a guy like that, Mark Cuban, suddenly spotted something, or Elon Musk spotted Cicero's post, or spotted Somi's post because CZ's following Somi on X, you just don't know what they're thinking. Maybe they'll think, I'll chuck a couple of million into that, or I'll tell a couple of mates. You don't know. They might turn around and go, fuck it, I'm going to put 1 billion in this thing. Actually, I can see this guy's vision. Like, boom, 100x. We've all made it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't know. You don't know who these people are. You don't know who they're connected to. You don't know there's no harm in reaching out. I think there's no harm in it. It's just, we're all on X anyway. We're all on crypto Twitter anyway. So why not have a bit of fun with it? Why not reach out and try and, create some effect? That's the way I see it. It's like, whether it's good or whether it's bad, whether you're judged for it, whether you get into some little crypto Twitter battles with people, just, but because you're doing it for a greater cause, it doesn't have to be personal. You don't have to take it personally. You can toy with people, you can troll a little bit, you can be empathetic, you can communicate. It's different forms of communication. So yeah, there's no right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? And so everybody uses crypto Twitter for different reasons. So yeah, just something that I'm playing around with.
I'd like to think that when you are favored by popular accounts, well, you're a popular account, but accounts with even bigger reach, does the X algorithm take this into account with where you are in terms of your own reach? Does it amplify you in any sort of way? Like, I would have thought the algorithm would take note of the fact that you were amplified by an account with larger reach, and somehow you get a benefit from this algorithm in the future, or is it just for that occasion alone, I wonder?
Well, I would be interested to see as well if Ant Middleton is now being fed PulseChain, like,
Right.
on his feed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's all my crypto Twitter is.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, like, if I retweet something and it's about, I mean, I know I basically live and breathe PulseChain, so obviously it's very hard to measure this as a test. But I would like to think that if I reposted something about, agriculture, just looked up an agriculture account, and or somebody posted on my wall and I reposted it and it was about sheep, would I start seeing sheep on my timeline? I think I would.
Yeah, I think you would. Yeah.
I mean, it's happened to me multiple times. Like, I've just come across something random and liked it, and then next day I've seen it again or something similar. It's just like it's there, and then it's there all the time because it's a subject that I'm currently interested in. Obviously, I'm constantly liking it, so then it's like it's constantly feeding it.
You'd be
And
bombarded by
bombarded.
a woolen wear.
Yeah. try and avoid the pegging. Yeah, I mean, I dare to think what Basbestos's feed looks like, or Trigon's. I don't even want to know at this point.
No, not Trigon. Goodness me.
But yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
X has this weird thing, Osprey, as well. I don't know if you've noticed it, but the algorithm is so advanced. It does this like association thing where like it'll share like a post of saying like let's just say, as an example, this is kind of like esoteric, so I'm trying to think of an example, but like it'll say something along the lines of, this is a free this is a green energy, like pro green, like an energy drink or something, like a vegan energy drink or something, and then it will say underneath it like why a carnivore diet is the best. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
like this conflating, like it does this thing where you'll literally see a post and it'll be the exact opposite underneath it. So it's like it's like almost like the algorithm. It's almost like Musk sat down with the developers when he took over took over what was Twitter and then rebranded to X. And he said to all the team, what I want you to do is make this a super fair. We want to be the fairest um, uh, social media platform there is. And like every time it delivers something, we want a counter view with it. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Because
Yeah, it would invite usage. It would invite more usage, more questions, more content, more engagement. I think it would
yeah,
be smart. Like, yeah,
then you've got that not cognitive dissonance. It's almost like they're competing ideas. So you have to you have to think. You know, sometimes I'll scroll through X and I'll actually stop on a post, but I won't click on it. But I'll just sort of deliberate a little bit. Like, oh, that's an interesting concept. Where did that come from? But again, you know, the algorithm isn't. It's like the virality has changed across these social media platforms as well. You know, it used to be that you would share something and then you would only get you would see that same person all the time. We still see that with X, where if you like someone or you follow someone or you like their post, they'll deliver more posts from that specific person. But now I've noticed that it's more about the topics. So like
mm.
it doesn't matter who the author of the topic is, you'll just get virality on that specific topic. It's very interesting.
Talking of X, the Vincent character. I don't know what there was some pretty good, a pretty good sort of like AI. I think it was done with Claude, maybe the one that you guys use. The Vincent character is actually a lap, and but it's like really cleverly done, all of it. Now, even if that's the case, I was thinking to myself last night, well, when the LARP has such reach in very many corners, then it really no longer becomes about the fact that they could be a LARP. It becomes about the reach more so, and it seems quite benign. All of it. It just seemed quite positive. So I'm not really bothered either way. But I did find the character interesting, that it seemed to come out of nowhere into our space. That seemed to happen maybe like a week and a half ago. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's about a week and a half.
Yeah. Like I got no issue with that. I thought it's really interesting. But
I agree.
when just on that whole subject of X and just people sharing things, if you've got lots and lots of reach into different corners and it's benign reach, then I think it's excellent. I mean, we're all laps in some sort of way. We're all shouting for our own thing, trying to capture attention as much as we can. This is the nature of
Yeah,
outreach.
big time.
So I don't think I have any issue with it.
No, I think what it is as well is like once you start understanding marketing as well, marketing and promotions and the way that psychology works in humans, like other humans, you're gonna I think you just become more comfortable with the strategies that are at play and you don't really view them as manipulation. I think like in the very beginning when you first start like marketing and stuff and all that, you kind of feel a bit. I think a lot of people feel kind of guilty or a little bit like, oh, we're manipulating people, but ultimately it comes back to, yeah, but are you steering people in a good direction? If you genuinely believe in your heart that Pulse Chain is going to change lives and make people very rich, and even at worst, just improve their financial situation and to some level, you're not going to feel bad about promoting that and saying things online that you wouldn't necessarily say in real life, or you just try new different strategies. And I think you start to realize as well that like eyeballs is just the game. And I think Richard Hart has been very clear about that. Like, I tried the humble thing, I tried this, I tried that, and I ended up having to become what I am now, as he sat in his Louis V suit and saying, I've had to become a bit rambunctious and a bit obnoxious and a bit like rage bait people a little bit, and you know, I think it's just you've just got to kind of be the loud. Almost like you're in a sea of like screaming people, so you have to just be loud and stand out a little bit.
Yeah, that veneer acts as your torch in that space. It's good, you know. It lets you operate and reach people that bit easier. I think
Yeah,
it's a good
I'm,
veneer.
I mean, it's just it's just a state of mankind. You know,
Yeah.
like until we all start giving up, and until we stop reacting to fear bait, rage bait, all that stuff, it's not going to change. You know, until we stop reacting to those kind of things, and we stop looking for those things online, and we stop being emotional. It's just the way it is.
Didn't remember Dirty Crypto, right? He had a badge. Didn't he have a DAI badge on his X account? Or was
I
that
think
Nathan?
so.
I'm
I think they both did. I think they both
Yeah.
did.
So when those accounts disappear, what is the nature of exchange for that badge? Because it's my understanding that badge is bought and paid for and assigned to an individual. Like it was assigned to the DAI account by it could have been Stephen, or it could have been Bud, or perhaps even I don't know who had the funds. Someone had the funds to do it anyway. It was all pooled together and to benefit accounts who carry the message of DAI, right? So if their accounts are no longer, what happened to those badges, and where do they go? Are they reassigned? I mean,
That's interesting. Yeah.
like, because it strikes me that if you're the first person that comes to mind just on this conversation alone, but from what I've seen the past couple of weeks, you are absolutely smashing it on X. So if you had a badge, the DAI badge, I'm pretty sure that would benefit all of us. So that's maybe a question we need to raise with. Actually, I might look this up. I might actually look this up on the interwebs and see what's the answer. But just try and find. Let's try and track down who is responsible for uh, assigning the badge.
Um, yeah, it was the gentleman who organised the PDI conference.
Was that Bud? Was that Bud P? Bud Pilch? Or Stephen? I think coexistent Stephen was. Yeah,
Stephen.
right. Right. We need to have a chat with that fella and see what's the story, because it strikes me that there's a badge or two going spare and they haven't been assigned to anybody else.
Yeah, that's a really valid point.
Yeah. Like it's not like they can be
Because he
refunded.
probably no, yeah, I think he could probably get because he was giving them out as gifts at the original conference, but I think at that time I just wasn't active enough.
Right.
So it
Right.
would be an argument like I don't think anybody paid for it, is what I'm saying. I think he'd
Yeah.
already paid for it. And if they've deactivated their accounts, there is an argument to be made that they should be pulled. I mean, definitely for Nathan anyway, if he's still rocking it. I don't know if he's still rocking it, but he's kind of anti PDI now, right?
I don't know. I couldn't care less, to be honest, but
Although to be fair, actually, well, I retract that statement actually, because that contradicts what we've been talking about. Good news, all news is good news. All news is good. All
well,
attention is good. I would argue that maybe a deactivated account. I'm not saying take Nathan's badge. I want it. It's more of Dirty's badge probably, or someone else who's kind of deactivated their profile, because I am curious about the badges. I think didn't Matty pull all his as well or something recently?
yeah.
I can't remember.
Maybe someone in chat will answer, but in the mean, I'm just gonna find out here. I have a
Yeah, I'd rock it, mate.
I'll have a little
I'll be
look.
all over that.
Let me just type this in. I'll come back to you in a second.
Yeah, I think I know the this like peak that was historic matches.
That conference was in November, right, Doc? I think.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, for those that are looking at that post, Han just shared it again in the chat. That's actually really good news. The XF USD, obviously it needs some more eyes on it. I'll do a deep dive I'll have a good look at it myself after the call. But FX USD as a stable coin, potentially the first private decentralized stable coin minting on Ethereum, just executed. We'll have to see if it's it says a private stable coin, but we'll have to see if that's actually a decentralized stable coin, because it could still be centralized but private. So I'll have a good look at that. But if it is, just so you know, if it is, that's actually bullish for PDI, because we were talking today about first mover advantage. If that is what we think it is, like it's a rival DeFi stablecoin, then that's good for us, because that's going to give the pioneers a kick up the ass if they are kind of taking their time a little bit. Do you know what I mean? That's going to think, oh, we need to move things. We've got a bit of a competition here, but it does need a deep dive. I'm still a little bit how do I say it? I'm a bit skeptical of any new decentralized coins coming, because we're right on the cusp of Clarity Act. I wonder if that they're trying to push it out before Clarity passes, because they're trying to like get ahead of the legislation. But as far as I know, if it was built on Ethereum, that's going to be crossing over into US sort of centralization if it was built on Ethereum. So I don't know if it's even going to be I don't know if it's
So
going to be able to do what we can do, if that makes sense.
yeah, it'd be crossing into SEC jurisdiction too, because I don't see any. Do you know what I mean? It's like we were saying earlier. PulseChain appears to have a jurisdictional advantage after that ruling.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
And in the circumstances of us being a front run, we were talking earlier about MySpace and Facebook. Obviously, MySpace being the front runner, it was the first to the party, but Facebook ultimately taking the market share. And maybe Liberty Swap just commented on it and said this is a good experiment. So they're framing it as it doesn't look like it's a competition at the moment, and if it is, maybe they can make a few mistakes ahead of us, right? And Richard can observe that and deploy and adopt that, because there's always a benefit to that. This is the beauty of capitalism, right? If you've got somebody competing with you, you can observe and watch what they're doing and do it better. The differentiator between Facebook, I was reading up on this the other day, was the literally standalone differentiator between MySpace and Facebook, or in the early days, was that Facebook was the first to do pictures and tag photos. There was like tags and photos or something in video. I think it was video that was the determining factor. I think it was Tom. I can't remember his name now. Surname Tom. Tom at MySpace. He was the founder, and Mark Zuckerberg famously like asked him at a party, like, "Oh, what's the, what would you recommend? What do you think's the next thing? What are we going to do? Blah blah blah." And I think Tom, so the story goes, the legend goes, Tom got drunk and admitted to Mark that they didn't have video capability or something, and he went and deployed it onto Facebook, and then boom, right? So he had that edge. I think it was pictures or Facebook. I can't remember the exact one now, but I thought that was an interesting story. So it's not always, the point is, it's not always first mover advantage. Sometimes it's second, but we do, as it stands, still have first mover advantage in that decentralized stablecoin space at this point, unless this information comes out that this is actually, do you know what I mean? It's still a bit of a grey area, and this is the beauty of the Clarity Act. We need it to pass so that we can eliminate our competitors. Because again, if it's built on Ethereum, like Osprey said, it doesn't have jurisdiction, but PulseChain does. PulseChain beat the SEC, Ethereum didn't. and Ethereum is predominantly a US based, regulated. You know, it's not DeFi, it's CeFi. Let's call it what it is. It's Ethereum is not decentralized. Okay, like ultimately, it's bought and paid for, and it's ran by the Ethereum Foundation and and it's completely institutionalized in the sense of, you know, it's on Binance, it's on all the centralized exchanges, it's all on all the order books. It's got US investment, VCs, all that stuff. It's completely encumbered by the US system. But whereas PulseChain doesn't have that, we don't have those restrictions.
I just looked at the badge reassignment argument, and they can be reassigned. So that needs to be looked at pronto, because now is the time to do it when you've got reach. There's no reason why it shouldn't be reassigned to you. So. PDAI conference is the account on X to reach out to. So it's either Bud or Stephen behind that. So we need to find out what happened there, because it looks like both Nathan and Dirty had badges. And it says here the conference organizers fully control and can reassign those badges. So that's like paid reach is being it's inaccessible, but it's available to. It's just sat there waiting, you know, and it's not doing anything. That's what it reads like. So I've just messaged you that. I've just messaged you those findings, and we should have a chat about how to proceed on that one, I think. Because I'd noticed immediately, you know, that November, when I got that badge, the reach went up by like 30-40% straight away. And that's you know, for messaging on part of an entire community, when you're reply guying to some people with even further reach than yourself, it's that's a net benefit to everybody.
Big time. Yeah, I've just messaged him. I've messaged Stephen and PDAI conference.
Yeah.
So me and Stephen are in pretty good terms, so I can't see why I'd say no. So I'll just threaten to peg him if he says no.
Right. Oh, that's the way. That's the way.
Yeah, don't make me open up a can of whoop ass.
I might wind it up. 2 hours. What do you reckon? I think that's pretty good.
I think so.
Yeah, I've done a full recording, so if anyone's just joined or just for the usual people who might not be awake and stuff, I'm going to upload that straight away so you can listen back. And thank you for everyone who came in to speak. It was nice to hear from Quinn, and it was nice to hear from Michael. Yeah, good chat. Is it enjoyable? Interesting things spoken about too. I like Michael's website a lot. That's really good work. So I'm going to pay attention to that myself.
Nice one. Yeah, cheers, Osprey. Appreciate you organising this, mate. This is always a good time for us all to get together and, you know, keep these rolling. And well, it'll be the 8th VC next week, I presume, same time and all that jazz.
Hey, that's 3 hours we've been talking. What am I saying? 2 hours? That's 3 hours. That's amazing. Good stuff.
Boom.
Yeah, good. Yeah, rock on. All right, man. Take care. See you, everyone.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, gentlemen.